Good morning, Chairman. I confirm that the meeting is now live. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much, meeting producer. Good morning. Good morning, one and all, and welcome to this virtual meeting of Cornwall Council. First of all, thank you, colleagues, for embracing this digital format, and also to officers for working hard to try and ensure it will go smoothly. So before delving into today's business, I would first just like to outline the technical protocols. So today's meeting is being recorded. It's also being live streamed to the public via Microsoft Teams. So welcome to members of the public, councillors of city, town and parish councils, and to members of the press who are joining us today. If this live stream fails during the meeting and we cannot share the proceedings with you, I will adjourn the meeting so that access can be restored. If the technical issue cannot be resolved, I will call the meeting to a halt, and the remaining business will be concluded at a future date. If a councillor experiences a technical issue, I will adjourn for a short period just to try and re-establish the connection. If it turns out that the technical issue cannot be resolved, we will continue the meeting as we will still remain quorate. So public participation at the meeting today is being enabled via telephone, and in addition, the proceedings can be watched by accessing the live stream via the link in the agenda on the Council's website. So those were all the technical procedures. So I'm just going to talk to you councillors today about the procedures for voting and other procedures. So when you wish to speak, councillors, please indicate by typing an X in the chat box. And as I call you to speak, I'll remind you to switch on your microphone. We'll let you know if we can't hear you, so please assume your microphone is on unless we shout at you and say you're on mute. When you're speaking, please feel free to turn on your video camera, but please do try to make sure both your camera and your microphone is switched off at all other times so that we can minimise the risk of overloading our IT systems and prevent noise interference. Where a member has declared a non-registerable interest, a disclosable pecuniary interest, or an interest by virtue of any trade union membership, please, you must leave this virtual meeting. Your departure will be confirmed, and we will invite you to rejoin the meeting at the appropriate time. So I'm keen to give as many councillors as possible the opportunity to take part in today's debates. So I have made arrangements to extend the length of the meeting. You'll see from the agenda that there are 2 links on the agenda page. These are for the general public to facilitate. Councillors, however, do not need to log out of one and into the other for the afternoon session. So just to repeat that there are two links on the agenda page. This is for the general public. There's a link for the morning session, a link for the afternoon session, but councillors, you can just stay on this link that you have already logged into. So given that this looks like it's going to be quite a long meeting, I will be breaking for lunch for half an hour. I think it's going to be at around 1 o'clock today. We're also going to be having 2 10-minute breaks. The morning break will be before item 12. I'm guessing this is going to be around 11:20, something like that. And then the afternoon 10-minute break will be before item 14, after we finish the agenda item around motions. I'm estimating this will be about 3:30 this afternoon. So again, in order to enable as many people as possible to speak, I have made the decision that member speeches will be reduced from the customary 3 minutes to 2 minutes. This 2-minute rule applies to all speeches, councillors, whether you are proposing or seconding a motion, whether you're raising issues as part of the debate, summing up or responding to questions. So just a few words about voting itself. The vote on the minutes, we will take this using the raise your hand function. All other votes will be via a roll call, and councillors' names will be called out in alphabetical order by the monitoring officer. So when your name is called to vote, please turn on at least your microphone. You're also welcome to turn on your video if you wish to confirm your vote. There are some members, I think we have 3 members joining us by telephone today. The monitoring officer will be asking them to confirm their vote verbally. So before moving on to the first item on the agenda, I just wanted to say a little bit about timings. I have made arrangements for today's meeting to be extended to enable as many people as possible to debate. I've got some approximate timings in mind. I won't be sticking rigidly to these timings, but please, councillors, I would urge you to make sure your interventions are as succinct as possible and don't carry on for longer than the agreed 2 minutes, please. Otherwise, we're going to reach a point later in the day when we're all just going to become too tired to exercise good judgment anymore. So thank you, and then having said all that, I'm going to start with agenda item number 1, which is prayers. And I have the great pleasure of inviting John Hudson to lead us in prayers. He is the events and pastoral lead at Creationfest. John, could I invite you into the meeting, please?
Thank you so much.
Well, hello, John. Before you start, perhaps you could just say a few words about Creationfest as well before you lead us in prayers?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's so lovely to be with you all this morning. Thank you so much for having me. If you've not heard of Creationfest, here at Creationfest, we say that we exist to celebrate the good news of a God who loves us through festivals, events, and gatherings in a pre-COVID world anyway, designed to creatively communicate the Christian faith and inspire others to do the same. So we centre around a summer festival where we meet here in Wadebridge at the Royal Cornwall Showground. We have approximately 10,000 people come for a week in August, and we have lots of kind of music and Bible teaching. We have this amazing great big skate park that comes in, and lots of young people coming through. We have professional skaters from around the world. We have kids venues and youth venues and a bit of everything. So throughout the year we do various events and partnering with churches, doing some training and speaking and things like that. But obviously this year was a little bit different, and we sadly weren't able to gather at the Cornwall Showground, but instead we did an online thing. So we kind of created 6 half-hour TV style shows where we had a bit of music, we had some interviews and some talks, and just basically an opportunity for people to come and find out a bit more about the Christian faith. We had Charlie Duke, the 10th man to walk on the moon. We had an England rugby player with Bear Grylls. It was an awful lot of fun. So you can find out more about Creationfest and kind of what we do and what we're about on our website, creationfest.org.uk.
Grand. Thank you, John. That was really, I just love the energy you bring to all of this. So perhaps if you could lead us in prayers. Thank you.
Absolutely. So this morning, I'm going to lead us in a prayer for those in government. During this prayer, after each section, I'm just going to pause and leave just a little bit of space just for you to add your own prayers or to name before God some of those people that we're thinking about in our prayers this morning. So wherever you are this morning, as we begin, perhaps you just want to close your eyes, whether you'd class yourself as a Christian or not. Let's just spend this moment. Maybe sometimes I find helping closing my eyes quite helpful. There's nothing special about it. It just eliminates some of the distractions and computers and devices around us. And maybe just take a few deep breaths in. I love that in one of the names of God, for God in the Bible, is Prince of Peace. And in the midst of this challenging season, an ongoing challenging season, why don't we just take a moment to rest in God's peace this morning? King of Kings and Lord of Lords, we give thanks for those who are in public life. We pray for our Queen and the royal family. We pray for the Prime Minister, Cabinet, Government and Parliament, and for all those who assist and advise them. For those who serve in local government and for all who work for local councils. Be present in all their deliberations and guide every exercise of political power. Cleanse every tendency to self-interest and inspire the ideal of serving others. That tactics may be tempered by compassion and decisions informed by wisdom, and our country be led into the light of your kingdom. We acknowledge our own responsibility to pray for those who govern us, and we ask you to remind all who make up the church in our land to do likewise. For we pray in the name of him whose own authority flows from his readiness to serve, even Jesus Christ, our Lord and Saviour. Amen. Amen. And as we close this morning, this time of prayer, why don't we join together and where you're at, even on mute, why don't we come together and say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, John. You brought great energy, but you've also given us great peace, and I'm able to focus now on the tasks ahead. So thank you very much. You are welcome to stay to the end of the meeting, but you can also leave. But thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Right, councillors, I'm going to move on then to item agenda number 2, which is apologies for absence. I do have a list here of apologies for absence. I'm going to read through them. If you note any other apologies for absence, perhaps you could pop a message for me in the meeting chat box. So first of all, we have councillors Callan, Code, Crago, Flashman, James, McKenna for late arrival, Nicholas, Olivier, Councillor John Thomas, Councillor Truebody, and Councillor Wills. And I also have Councillor Elliott. Thank you, Linda Taylor. I've just seen the message in the chat box. Councillors, is there anybody I have missed? I'm going to read that list again, including Councillor Elliott this time. Councillors Callan, Code, oh, Crago. Sorry, I think, John Crago, you were here. I heard you earlier in the meeting. If Councillor Crago, if you are here, could you put an X in the box?
That's correct, Chairman.
You are here, aren't you? Thank you. I thought I noticed you earlier. Sorry, Councillor Crago, for having you marked down as absent. So that's Councillors Callan, Code, Elliott, Flashman, James, McKenna for late arrival, Nicholas, Olivier, John Thomas, Truebody, and Wills. And I'm seeing Councillor Kenny being added in. So I've added in Councillor Kenny now as well from the chat box. Thank you, Councillor Brown, and Councillor Duffin for early departure. Anita, can I bring you in, please?
Yeah, sorry, Democratic Services. I think Councillor Kenny is apologies for early departure as opposed to apologies during the meeting. It might be useful to clarify.
Councillor Kenny, can I bring you in, please?
Yes, it's early departure. I'm on my way back from Italy.
Oh, gosh. Oh, very good. Very good. Grand, so early departure. Thank you for that, councillors. So some of these councillors whose names I have read out, I have to say, are unwell. We send you our best wishes, councillors, for a speedy recovery. Moving on then to agenda item number 3, which is declarations of interest. In accordance with the Constitution, I'm now going to take declarations of interest from any members for any items on the agenda. Members, if you could please put an X in the chat box if you have an interest. I will then invite you to disclose the nature of those interests. Please remember, councillors, that if you have a disclosable pecuniary interest or a non-registerable interest in any matter being considered on the agenda, you must disclose it, whether or not you have already entered it into the register. And councillors, could you indicate with an X in the chat box if you have any interests? I'm looking at the chat box now and I can't see anything. No, I'll give you another couple of seconds just to see if there are any interests. No. Okay, grand. So let's move on then. I'm getting a message. Okay. So moving on then to Chairman's announcements. First, it is with great sadness, councillors, that I have to share the news with you that Tony Martin has passed away. Tony Martin served as a councillor representing Penryn East and Mylor on Cornwall Council from 2009 to 2013. He was chairman of the Central Sub-Area Planning Committee during this time, and he also served on the Environment and Economy Overview and Scrutiny Committee, the Licensing Act Committee and the Harbours Board. Councillors, Tony Martin served his community and his Cornwall well and with great dignity. We all extend our heartfelt sympathies to Tony's family. Moving on, my only other announcement is that I just wanted to share some news with you about the Civic Awards. Before COVID-19 struck, the judges had made their decisions for this year's winners of the Civic Awards. We had planned for an award ceremony to take place in the council chamber in April. This had to be postponed to late September in the hope we would be able to be back in the chamber. In recent weeks, it has become clear that this is not going to be possible, and so we've had no choice but to cancel the ceremony that would have taken place in the council chamber. So instead, the Vice Chairman and myself will be visiting individual recipients to present the certificates in socially distanced ceremonies with no more than 6 people present. So we hope that the nominating councillors for the recipients will be able to join us, and we will be contacting you over the coming weeks to make arrangements for our road trip, Vice Chairman. That's the end of my announcements, and I'm going to go straight over to agenda item number 5 and invite the leader to give his announcements. Leader, could you come in, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, Miraz Fedoras. Colleagues, this remains an exceptionally busy time with important work across a community of areas, in both racism and climate change, through to delivering affordable housing to ongoing devolution discussions. However, I want to focus on one important area, tackling the coronavirus pandemic. As we begin to hear from government about what tighter rules are coming into force to fight the rise in cases of coronavirus, I would like to thank again fellow councillors and staff for their hard work throughout this continuing crisis. Madam Chairman, you've got your microphone on. It's just a little bit of noise in the background. Sorry, apologies. We continue to put our residents first, and we are continuing to work hard to keep our residents safe. Last week, a small number of cases were discovered in a factory setting as part of the enhanced contact tracing service put in place by Cornwall Council's public health team. Our team worked swiftly with the business to put in place measures, including mobile testing at the site, in order to minimise the spread of the virus. I want to thank our public health team and everyone involved in this work. We are by no means complacent, and as the picture from Public Health England shows, rates of infection are rising across all areas of the country, and we will continue to do all we can to identify cases and deal with them swiftly. It is not easy for the public to keep pace with the changing information, and I want to thank residents of Cornwall for playing their part in keeping one another safe, for their compassion and for their continuing to follow public health guidance. We're giving clear messages to help people comply with the often changing rules. For example, we are already working with local businesses to ensure that they understand what they need to do to get ready to support the government's Test and Trace app due to be released this week. Meanwhile, giving residents access to testing remains a key priority in order to tackle the virus, and last week I made a promise to update MPs with regards to our concerns about the lack of access to testing in Cornwall. I'm grateful to the many hundreds of residents who told us about their experience with the government's COVID-19 testing system. It's clear from the sheer volume of responses that the system isn't working, and I'm deeply concerned that the people of Cornwall are suffering as a result. This isn't about asymptomatic people putting a strain on the system. The responses we've had are from people who've had COVID-19 systems and are trying to do the right thing by following government guidance. We must do all we can to support them and keep our residents safe. Some of the stories we've heard are truly disturbing, from the carer self-isolating and unable to work because of delay in receiving her tests, to the parents of a poorly child who were forced to travel almost 100 miles for a test, only for the appointment to be cancelled when they were halfway there. These examples are shocking, but sadly they're not unique. If we're to beat the virus, we need a testing system that is fit for purpose. I worry that at this present moment, we don't have one. I've written to our MPs with our findings and asked for their support in the hope that they can press decision makers in government to make desperately needed changes to the testing system. We can't wait weeks. These changes need to happen now. Our businesses are already suffering from the economic impacts of the virus. I've yet to receive a reply from the Chancellor regarding Cornwall's call for the unspent business rate grant money to be released to help those businesses that have said they need it through the discretionary business grants process. I will therefore write to the Prime Minister this week, making the case again to government. No one understands business needs in Cornwall as well as those of us who live and work here, and we should be allowed to distribute that money to the people who need it most. We need to help these businesses and to protect the people they employ. As the furlough scheme draws to an end, this money that we continue to hold, waiting for government to say we can release it, could provide vital support to Cornwall's businesses. The next few weeks are crucial for us to do everything we can to minimise a second wave of infections. I want to ask everyone to do their bit to help. As we move on into the autumn, please continue to follow key public health rules, which are the only certain ways to stop the spread of coronavirus. Wear a mask as appropriate, keep social distancing, and wash your hands. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor German. I'm sorry I left my microphone on. Apologies. There's a lesson for all of us there. Thank you. So moving on then to the minutes, councillors. This is item agenda number 6. I'm going to move that the minutes of the meeting held on Tuesday the 7th of July are correctly recorded and that they be signed by the chairman. There are, however, 2 amendments. I will read out these amendments. The first is that we insert Councillor Hurd being noted as present at the meeting. And the second amendment is that we will insert the following sentence into a CC/802, and that's the questions from cabinet members to members of the cabinet. Sorry, questions from members to members of the cabinet. And the sentence that needs to be inserted reads as follows. The leader's investigation into the Cormac health and safety incident could not be provided to members because it was confidential as it related to a specific employee. Councillors, first of all, I'm going to invite my, councillors, the leader, Councillor German, you would like to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. One of the joys of us being open in our democracy is the ability to look at the webcast and see what people actually said. So in response to Councillor Edgerton's question, what I've responded with was, as Councillor Edgerton will understand, the information about a specific employee would be confidential, and I do not intend to supply a report to all members on that investigation. Therefore, Madam Chairman, I don't believe that that amendment is a correct insertion into the minutes. However, I don't want to delay the meeting, so perhaps we could record in the next minutes my concerns, but just to give notice of why I'll be voting against the minutes. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Councillor German, I believe some words have been added to the end of the sentence. So the sentence that is to be inserted reads as follows. Could you just confirm whether you are happy for this or against this? So the proposed sentence is: the leader's investigation into the Cornwall health and safety incident could not be provided to members because it was confidential as it related to a specific employee. So those words have been added to the end as it related to a specific employee?
No, Madam Chairman.
You're still willing to vote against? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I bring in the Vice Chair, please? Councillor May, could you second the minutes, please?
Happy to second, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor May. So now I'm going to go to the vote, which will be by raising your hand. So it's the raise the hand function. Members of the council, could you indicate via the raise your hand function that you are content that the minutes are correctly recorded and that they be signed by myself as the chairman? I'd like to see some hands being raised. Yes, we've got 57 so far, 64 going upwards here. Oh, I better raise my own hand. Here we go. I've raised my hand as well. So I'm seeing now that we have 77 people who have raised their hands. Thank you. Monitoring officer, could I bring you in, please? Could you confirm that a majority of people, of councillors, have accepted those minutes?
Yes, Chairman. I'm just going to ask my Democratic Services lead, Anita Serby, to come in. Unfortunately, Chairman, I can't see the hands up at present.
Okay. Anita?
Yeah. Thanks, Chairman. Yes, Anita Serby, Democratic Services. Yes, we have 76 members currently voting positively to support the minutes. It's gone up to 77. But can we, given that Councillor German has said that he wants to vote against, I think we need to take members' vote, if everyone can lower their hands, and then we take against and any abstentions.
Indeed.
And it would also be useful if Councillor German would confirm whether he wants it actually noted in the minutes that he voted against, please. Thanks.
Lovely. Thank you, Anita. So we're going to go now. So if councillors who have raised their hands, could you please lower your hands now? We still have 12 or so. Thank you. 5 others left. Whilst I'm waiting for councillors to lower their hands, perhaps I could bring in Councillor German.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. No need for my name to be recorded in the minutes, but hopefully Democratic Services will give consideration to reflecting my comments in the next minutes. Thank you.
Certainly, thank you. I still have one hand raised. Okay, all hands have now gone down. So I'm now going to ask for those who are voting against the minutes, please. So far we are voting on agenda item number 6, which is the minutes. And I have 11 voting against. Is that correct? Perhaps, Mel, are you able to see the hands raised?
Apologies, Chairman. I'm going to have to seek my Democratic Services officer support. You can see the hands raised. So, if Ms. Serby could come in and confirm that position, thank you.
Yes, Chairman, I can see that there are 12 members voting against the accuracy of the minutes.
Okay, thank you. And could I have those? Could those members then please lower their hands? And once these hands have been lowered, thank you. Just one more to lower the hand. Councillor Dwelly, thank you. And now I'm going to ask for abstentions. So we have councillors, if you can raise your hands if you wish to abstain from this vote. So I'm going to give another couple of seconds for councillors to abstain from voting on this. So we have 6 abstentions. monitoring officer, perhaps I could bring you in just to clarify and give an explanation of exactly what members are voting on.
Yeah, so just to be clear, Chairman, we've just voted on the minutes of the meeting. I think that was made clear by yourself on a number of occasions that we were voting on item 6, and that motion has been carried, and so those minutes are passed for the purpose of today's meeting. Just to be clear, we talked about an amendment. You proposed that amendment as the chair, and that was seconded by the vice chair, and therefore those minutes as amended are approved. I hope that clarifies, Chairman, and thank you.
Lovely, thank you. In which case we shall move on. I think I still have 4 councillors with their hands raised. If you could now lower your hands, thank you. And I would like to invite Councillor Dyer to blank his screen, please. Thank you. Thank you. So we are then going to move on to questions from the public. Sadly, we actually don't have any. We have not received any questions from the members of the public today. So that we are now going to move on to agenda item number 8, which is political proportionality of the council. I'm going to invite Councillor Taylor to move and Councillor Rule to second the recommendations. They're set out on page 3 of the supplementary pack, which was circulated electronically last week. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to propose the report recommendations. It's a part of a good democratic process that we are actually inviting a new small party into our midst, and as part of that, the agreement between the Independents and the Conservatives have come up with an acceptable solution for all concerned. So thank you.
Lovely, thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Rule, would you like to second that, please?
Yes, I'm happy to second that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any councillors who wish to speak to this? I'm going to give a couple of seconds for councillors. If you wish to speak to this, please put an X in the box. I'm not seeing any X's in the chat box, so I'm going to move to the vote, and this will be by roll call. So I'm going to hand over to the monitoring officer. Mel, could you come in, please?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. And just a reminder, can I please ask that all councillors mute their mics when they're not talking? We do have a bit of interference on the call this morning, so I'd really appreciate your support with that. So as usual, members, I'm going to be going in alphabetical order. If you do wish to put your cameras on, can you please do them in batches of 7s or something similar like we did last time? And if you can confirm your vote for, against or abstain. So Alvey.
For.
Atherford.
For.
Barnes.
For.
Bassett.
For.
Batters.
For.
Biggs.
For.
Disco.
For.
Jeff Brown.
For.
Malcolm Brown.
For.
Bull.
For.
Burden.
Abstain.
Buscombe.
For.
Chopak.
For.
Cole.
For.
Collins. Councillor Collins.
For.
Thank you, Councillor Collins. Crago.
For.
Baker.
For.
Davis.
For.
Dorr. Councillor Dorr, I believe you're on the phone. If you want to press *6, you can unmute your phone. Thank you, Councillor Dorr. Desmond.
For.
Dolphin. Members, do have a bit of background noise, and it's gone on for some time. So if you could mute your mics if you're not voting. So that was Dolphin. Thank you. Duffin.
For.
Welly.
For.
Dyer.
For.
Ethorn Gibbons.
For.
Eddie.
For.
Edgerton.
For.
Ecclesmith.
For.
Ellenbrook.
For.
Evans.
For.
Fairman.
For.
Barrington.
For.
Peter.
Abstain.
Funk.
For.
Foot.
For.
Formosa.
For.
Frank.
For.
French.
For.
Frost.
For.
Gammon.
For.
German.
For.
Giles.
For.
Greenslade,
4.
Hannaford,
4.
Harding,
4.
Harris,
4.
Harvey,
4.
Hawkin,
4.
Hawkins,
4.
Hendry,
4.
Hurd,
4.
Hayward,
4.
Holly,
4.
Jenkins,
Abstain.
Jewel,
4.
Jordan.
4.
Thank you, Councillor Jordan. Kasmarek, Councillor Kasmarek. I'll come back to you, Councillor Kasmarek. Keelan,
4.
Kenny,
4.
Kirk,
4.
Kirkham,
4.
Knightley,
4.
LeBroy,
4.
Lennox Boyd,
4.
Long,
4.
Luke. Councillor Luke. I'll come back to Councillor Luke. McCrory.
Sorry, Mel, no longer on the council.
Oh, thank you. Colin Martin,
4.
John Martin,
4.
Massey,
4.
May,
4.
McCarthy,
4.
McKenna. Councillor McKenna.
Monitoring officer, Councillor McKenna was apologies for late arrival. He's due to arrive about 11:30.
Thank you for the confirmation. McLennan,
4.
Andrew Mitchell,
4.
Pete Mitchell,
4.
Monk,
4.
Moorcroft,
4.
Maud,
4.
Musto,
4.
Nolan,
4.
Adrian Parsons,
4.
David Parsons,
4.
Jane Pascoe,
4.
Lionel Pascoe,
4.
Painter,
4.
Pears,
It says you're on mute.
4.
So you need to unmute it.
Pollard,
4.
Pugh,
4.
Rand,
4.
Rich,
4.
Robinson,
4.
Rogerson,
4.
Rotchell,
4.
Rouse,
4.
Rule,
4.
Rushworth,
4.
Saundry,
4.
Saunders.
4.
Sorry, Councillor Saunders, did you make your vote?
I did. I said 4.
Thank you for that clarity. Seaver,
4.
Simmons,
4.
Tamlin,
4.
Taylor,
4.
Ian Thomas,
4.
Mike Thomas,
4.
Toms,
4.
Powell,
4.
Tudor,
4.
Ver,
4.
Wallace,
4.
White. Councillor White, I believe you may be on the phone, so if you want to press *6 to unmute Councillor White. I'll come back to you. Peter Williams,
4.
Councillor Wood.
4.
Thank you, members. I have 3 members still waiting to vote. I've got Councillor Kasmarek, Councillor Luke and Councillor White. Meeting producer, please can you confirm if these councillors are on the call?
I can confirm Councillor Kasmarek should still be on the line.
So Councillor Kasmarek, please can I hear your vote?
I'm not hearing anything, Manager Officer.
Okay, can we move on to Councillor Luke? Has he shown has been on the line?
He's not on the call, I don't believe.
Thank you. And Councillor White, is Councillor White shown has been on the line?
Yeah, it is 4.
Wonderful, thank you, Councillor White. So Councillor Kasmarek, are you able to confirm your vote, please? Chairman, if you can just give us a short opportunity to make contact with Councillor Kaczmarek just to check he's on the line, and then I'll confirm that his vote and the output of this vote as well. Will just be a moment.
Yes, thank you. We will just give us a slight pause here. So members of the public watching on live stream, we're just making sure whether the councillor who had checked in this morning is actually able to reach us, or whether he's experiencing technical difficulties. We're still waiting.
Yes, Chairman, and we're just also totaling up that vote, so it will be a few moments.
Okay, thank you.
Monitoring officer, I've just tried calling Councillor Kaczmarek on the telephone. I can't get through to him.
Thank you for that confirmation.
Chairman, I can confirm on that basis the outcome of the vote, if that is your wish.
Yes, I think so. I think we've tried to get in contact with Councillor Kaczmarek and he's not, we're not able to reach him. If you could give us the results of the vote, please.
Yeah, so the outcome of that vote was, it was carried 107 votes for, 3 against. Oh, 3 abstentions, sorry. 107 for, 3 abstentions.
107 for and 3 abstentions. Thank you. Right, in which case we are going to move on to item agenda number 9, which is the formal censure of Councillor Darcy Tudor. As advised earlier, Councillor Wills, who is chairman of the Standards Committee, has tendered his apologies for today's meeting. So I'm going to ask the monitoring officer to read the decision notice of the Standards Committee for Cornwall Council relating to a failure to apologise by Councillor Tudor. This is set out on page 23 of your agenda pack. There will be no debate and no vote on this item. So monitoring officer, could I invite you in, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Decision notice of the Standards Committee for Cornwall Council relating to the failure to apologise by Councillor Tudor. At the meeting of the Standards Committee held on the 21st of July 2020, the committee considered a referral to it made by the Monitoring Officer of Cornwall Council. The matter referred concerned the failure of Councillor Darcy Tudor to apologise for a breach of the Code of Conduct as set out in the relevant decision notice. In reviewing this matter, the Standards Committee considered the report and decision notice and heard oral statements made by the Head of Legal as assessing officer for the complaint, and considered written and oral statements from Councillor Darcy Tudor. The Standards Committee had the opportunity to question both the Head of Legal and Councillor Darcy Tudor. After considering the matter and taking advice from the Monitoring Officer, the decision of the Standards Committee is to formally publicly censure Councillor Darcy Tudor and request that she undertakes Code of Conduct training with an officer within 2 months. The committee identified that Councillor Darcy Tudor had failed on 2 occasions to comply with decision notices, in that she did not apologise. Councillor Darcy Tudor has breached the following aspects of the Code of Conduct. Paragraph 2.1, you must treat others with respect. Paragraph 2.5, you must not conduct yourself in a manner which is contrary to the Council's duty to promote and maintain high standards of conduct by members. Paragraph 2.10, you must not do anything that could reasonably be regarded as bringing your office or authority into disrepute. The committee noted the personal abuse that Councillor Darcy Tudor confirmed she has received in leading up to this complaint. However, the failure to comply with the requirement to apologise undermines her role as a councillor and the ethical standards regime. It's important that the Standards Committee continue to ensure and maintain high standards of conduct amongst councillors. The Standards Committee make a recommendation to Council that this public formal censure of Councillor Darcy Tudor is read out at the next Council meeting. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Monitoring Officer. So we're now going to move on to agenda item number 10, and that's the designation of the Section 151 officer. First of all, Tracy Langley, could I ask that you leave the meeting during the debate and the vote on this item? Let me think. Louise, meeting producer Louise, could you confirm that Tracy has left the meeting? And as soon as you have done that, I will invite Councillor German to move and Councillor Pater to second the motion as set out on page 25.
Thank you, Chairman. I can confirm that Tracy Langley has left the meeting.
Lovely, thank you. So, Councillor German, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As colleagues will be aware, the Council previously designated Tracy Langley as the Council's interim Chief Financial Officer and Section 151 Officer in December last year, pending the Chief Officer's Employment Committee conducting a formal recruitment and selection process for the position of Chief Operating Officer and Section 151 Officer. The committee conducted this process in August, permanently appointing Tracy to the position of Chief Operating Officer. The Council is now asked to designate her as its Section 151 Officer to meet its statutory obligation. I'm content to propose the recommendation on page 25 of your agenda pack. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Leader. I'm going to invite Councillor Painter to second that. Councillor Painter, could you join us, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm very happy to second the resolution, and I think Tracy's a great addition to our senior management team and has done a great job working with members as well as officers in the areas of finance and looking after our budgets. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Painter. I would invite crosses in the box and X in the chat box for anybody who wishes to speak to this. Councillor Almond-Toms, did you wish to speak to this? Councillor Toms?
Yes, Madam Chairman. I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear me. Okay, thank you. I know there have been concerns expressed in the community about this appointment. So, in fact, because of those concerns, I wrote to both the leader and to Miss Langley herself. I had responses from both, and I was assured that the process was carried out as per the council's procedures, and the people that were on that board of appointment were cross-party. In other words, every political party was involved, so there can be no doubt that everybody had their chance for input. When I wrote to Miss Langley, she was very open and honest with me about the allegations, and for me that shows a great transparency with the lady. So I will be voting for this appointment because I've done my due diligence for the residents of my area, and I'm accepting what I've been told. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Toms. And I can confirm that I was also a member of the interview panel, and we were all the members of the interview panel were extremely highly impressed with the quality and the honesty of Ms. Langley's interview. So I'm also content, more than content, to vote in favour of this motion proposal. If there are no more X's, David Harris, Councillor Harris, I'd like to bring you in, please.
Yes, thank you. Just to be clear and make the point this is cross-party. Tracy Langley has my confidence. I think the confidence of everybody on that committee. So absolutely happy to vote in favour of this. Thank you.
Thank you for confirming that, Councillor Harris. So I'm going to move over to the monitoring officer for the vote. Mel, could I bring you in, please?
Thank you, Chairman. So just to be clear, members, we're voting on item 10 on the agenda, and that is designation of the Section 151 officer. As before, please can you confirm your vote for or against or abstention? Alvey?
For.
Atherfold?
For.
Barnes?
For.
Baston?
For.
Batters?
For.
Biggs?
For.
Bisco?
For.
Jeff Brown?
4.
Malcolm Brown?
4.
Bull?
4.
Burden?
4.
Buscombe?
4.
Chopak?
4.
Cole?
4.
Collins?
4.
Crago?
4.
Quaker?
4.
Davis?
4.
Daw? Councillor Daw, I'll be on your phone, so I think it might take a few seconds for you to be able to vote. Oh, thank you, Councillor Daw. Desmond?
4.
Dolphin? 4. Duffin.
4.
Dwelly.
4.
Dyer. Councillor Dyer, are you able to confirm your vote, please?
4.
Thank you. Ethel Gibbons.
4.
Eddie.
4.
Edgerton.
4.
Ecclesmith.
4.
Ellenbrook.
4.
Evans.
4.
Fairman.
4.
Farrington.
4.
Bitter.
4.
Bonk.
4. 4. 4.
Formosa.
4.
Frank.
4.
French.
4.
Frost.
4.
Thank you, Councillor Frost. Gammon.
Yeah, just
Members, somebody's got that background noise. If the meeting producer can mute that mic, that'd be helpful. Councillor Gammon, are you able to confirm your vote for me, please? Oh, apologies, was that 4, Councillor Gammon? 4. Wonderful, thank you. Councillor German.
4.
Giles.
4.
Greenslade.
4.
Hannaford.
4.
Hardin.
4.
Harris.
4.
Harvey.
4.
Hawkin.
4.
Hawkins.
4.
Hendry.
4.
Hurd.
4.
Hayward.
4.
Holly.
4.
Jenkin.
4.
Jewel.
4.
Jordan.
4.
Kazmarek. We'll come back to Councillor Kazmarek, meeting producer. He wasn't on the previous vote, but I'll get clarity on this vote. Keelan.
4.
Kenny.
4.
Kirk.
4.
Kirkham.
4.
Knightley.
4.
Thank you, Councillor Knightley. LeBroy.
4.
Lennox Boyd.
4.
Long.
4.
And Councillor Luke, if you can just confirm, meeting producer, that Councillor Luke is not on the call still.
He's not on the call.
Thank you. Colin Martin.
4.
John Martin.
4.
Massey.
4.
May.
4.
Carthy.
4.
Kenner. Councillor McKenna, are you able to confirm your vote, please?
Monitoring officer Councillor McKenna is due to join about 11:30.
Thanks for the confirmation. McLennan.
4.
Mitchell.
4.
Councillor Pete Mitchell.
4.
Councillor Monk.
4.
Moorcraft.
4.
Mould.
4.
Musto.
4.
Nolan.
4.
Adrian Parsons.
4.
David Parsons.
4.
Jane Pascoe.
4.
Arnold Pascoe.
4.
Painter.
4.
Hares.
4.
Pollard.
4.
Pugh.
4.
Rand.
4.
Rich.
4.
Robinson.
4.
Rogerson.
4.
Rothshaw.
4.
Rouse.
4.
4.
Rushworth.
4.
Members, I do have some background noise. If you're not voting, please can you mute your mics? Thank you. Sornby.
4.
Saunders.
4.
Beaver.
4.
Simmons. Councillor Simmons, you able to confirm your vote?
Yeah, sorry, 4.
Wonderful, thank you. Tamlin.
4.
Taylor.
4.
Ian Thomas.
4.
Mike Thomas.
4.
Toms.
4.
Towell.
4.
Tudor.
4.
Burr.
4.
Wallace.
4.
White. Councillor White, are you able to confirm your vote? I do know you're on the phone, so it might take a little bit longer. I'll come back to you, Councillor White. Councillor Peter Williams.
4.
And Councillor Wood.
4.
Thank you. Meeting producer, can you confirm the position in relation to Councillor Kaczmarek, and can you confirm that Councillor White is on the call, please?
It's showing that Councillor Kaczmarek is with us, but I've tried calling him, but I can't get through to him. And Councillor White should be on the telephone, but I think he might well be muted.
So, Councillor White, if you can press *6 for me, and then please cast your vote.
4.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Councillor White. Appreciated. Thank you, Chairman. So we will continue through the course of this meeting to try and seek contact with Councillor Kaczmarek, but we will pull those voting numbers together if you just give us a few seconds. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, members.
Understood. Thank you, Monitoring Officer. Louise,
you.
The meeting producer, sorry, whilst we're waiting for the votes to be tallied, perhaps you could invite, be ready to invite Tracy back into the meeting. Anita, sorry, I interrupted you.
So, Chairman, I can confirm that the outcome of that vote was unanimous, with 110 votes in support.
Lovely, thank you. Louise, if you could invite Ms Langley back into the meeting.
I'm just doing that now, thank you.
Thank you, meeting producer.
Ms Langley, are you with us now?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Thank you.
Hello, Ms Langley. Ms Langley, I'm delighted to be the one to tell you that the vote was unanimous, and we have all. Would you like to say a few words?
Oh, thank you so much. Good morning, councillors, and thank you so much for appointing me. I am so delighted. I'm absolutely delighted to be appointed into this role, and I thank you so much for your kind words and all of your support over the last few months. It's been a bit of a tough ride, but I think together we've done a pretty good job. Just a bit of a story, actually, if you'll forgive me. It will take 2 minutes, I promise. So I remember when I first became appointed to my first FD role in Buckinghamshire many moons ago, when I was a young whippersnapper and sort of 10 years qualified, and I became a member of the Society of County Treasurers. A rather grand meeting of very dignified and very important, very intelligent and very august set of local government treasurers. And I knew that I would learn a huge amount from these people, but one sticks in my mind: Frank Twining, who was then the Cornwall County Council Treasurer. And Frank absolutely adored Cornwall and was always regaling us with stories of truly amazing things that he got involved in. And of all of the treasurer's stories, and there were very many, in many bars, it was Frank's tales of swashbuckling pirates and Cornish food that had us all absolutely riveted and in stitches most of the time. And as a young FD, I remember being absolutely enthralled by what went on in this beguiling place called Cornwall. And here I am. And I am going to tell my own my own version of Frank's swashbuckling stories of pirates and food, as one of those very old august treasurers that I am now. So my promise to you is that I will continue to do my very best for Cornwall in my very straightforward, honest and hard-working way. My focus as Section 151 is to keep us financially robust, and as your Chief Operating Officer, to support you and the organisation to be the very best it can be. I absolutely love working here. I love the team, I love the people, I love the independent nature of the Cornish, and I'm absolutely looking forward to serving you and our communities in the future. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms Langley, and a hearty welcome. And I do hope your swashbuckling pirate friends will find plenty of treasure here in Cornwall for us, because we're going to need it as we go forward. Indeed.
Absolutely.
But thank you. Welcome.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Moving on then to agenda item number 11.1, which is the capital programme update. I'm going to ask Councillor Jim, before I move on to this, can I just remind all councillors to turn off their cameras, please? Turn off their cameras when they are not speaking. Thank you. And also your microphones. So agenda item 11.1. It's the capital programme update, and I'm going to invite Councillor German to move this and Councillor Painter to second the recommendation. You'll find it, councillors, on page 13 of the supplementary pack, which was circulated electronically last week. So, Councillor German, over to you, please.
If I may second the recommendation, Madam Chairman, I'm happy to do so. I was expecting Councillor Painter to propose, so if I can ask that you invite him to propose. I'm happy
Apologies indeed. My updated notes do indeed say Councillor Painter is going to propose. Councillor Painter, could I bring you in, please?
Thank you, Chairman. This report provides an overview of the Cabinet recommendations to uplift the Council's capital programme since it was previously approved by full Council. It combines the recent decisions from Cabinet and seeks the formal approval from Council for the overall increase to the programme for the funding of those projects. Appendix 1 to this report further summarises the whole capital programme. The capital programme is a long-term programme of projects delivering on significant improvements, facilitating and enabling key projects for the Council and the residents of Cornwall. The latest overall programme includes major planned expenditure of 220 million on highways improvements and transport links, including those which are being delivered through the Growth Deal programme, 440 million on new and improved housing projects, including the Housing Development Programme and schemes within the Housing Revenue Account, 220 million on schemes which support economic growth, including schemes which are being developed as part of the Council's investment programme. The total capital programme now stands at over 1.1 billion, of which more than 300 million relates to the Council's investment programme. The report's recommendation is that the capital programme is uplifted by an overall amount for new schemes and additional funding that's been recommended by Cabinet for inclusion, since the capital programme was last approved by full Council on the 7th of July 2020. This includes, most significantly, as part of the capital programme Q1 2020-21 report presented at Cabinet last week, 12.8 million to conduct backlog maintenance work at schools still maintained by the Council, as well as 4 million for backlog maintenance work at former PFI schools, of which the Council remains responsible for and receives funding from the Department of Education. There's also a £708,000 worth of funding for town regeneration and place shaping. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Painter. Councillor German to second, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Pleased to endorse these investments and happy to second. Thank you.
Thank you. I have some X's in the chat box of councillors who would like to speak. First of all, I'd like to invite Councillor Rogerson, Councillor Pat Rogerson, and then I will take a Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm asking to speak to welcome this, but particularly that huge investment in the young people of the Duchy. There's obviously been a rolling effort to improve our schools, but the backlog maintenance issue has been further exacerbated by COVID, so that contractors have not been able to get into schools, and where they were able to, perhaps some of their workers were furloughed. So that's been a problem. We know that our children in Cornwall are underfunded compared with children elsewhere. We're still waiting for the Fairer Funding Review for this to actually be dealt with. But in the meantime, our schools do such a good job. We have many outstanding and good schools here. This money will actually help give the children an environment in which to further develop their skills and their learning. So I welcome this, and I trust that my colleagues here, for the benefit of our children in Cornwall, will be able to support this. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Rogerson. I have 3 councillors now who have indicated they wish to speak. That's Councillors Harris, Burden and then Barnes. So first I will go to Councillor Harris, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. 2 small matters, if I may. Is it possible to have an update on Pydar, and in particular the acquisition of the last piece of property there, which I think is still pending? And on Pydar, quickly, any progress on finding outside funders of this? And then separately, an update, please, on the stadium and Langard. Has there been any progress on the land transfer? And in particular, have we had the revised business plan not case, that was a condition of the council's funding and land transfer as voted on some 2 or 3 years ago? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Harris. Councillor Burden, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm trying to read the piece on about the capital programme on the appendix. And I know I harp on about it, but I think continually increasing the capital programme is rather ambitious and, dare I say, foolish. We're in a very strange position as a country, as all countries are in the world, and I think by keeping on borrowing more and more money and going out for fantasy projects is going to land the next council into a very dire position, whoever that is. And I think they'll be wishing us further, is putting a millstone around the neck of new council. And I think it rises every quarter. We want to borrow more money. Oh, we're going to build houses. Well, you know how successful that's been so far. You can't even sell some of them. So I just think that I beg the Cabinet to hold back. Yes, there's small things like repairing schools that need it and other issues. They're small fry, but it's the bigger, what I call the fantasy projects that concern me deeply, and how you're going to deliver them. We were supposed to have Treves start building at Nansen. Still nothing's happened. And so you go on and on and on. Oh, we'll spend more and more money. And the money tree is bare. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burden. And then finally, Councillor Barnes.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I feel very much like Councillor Burden that unfortunately the Cabinet seem to be like gamblers who keep losing but think they'll keep throwing more money at it and eventually they'll win their money back. It does seem rather reckless, especially with the financial crisis which is looming because of the COVID-19 pandemic, to start to keep on all the time gambling more money on investments which may or may not turn out to be successful. And I'm particularly concerned about the Langard Park fiasco, where they intend to put a road around the back of Trelisk and then feed it down into the Trelisk roundabout. They did put out a press release saying, oh, this isn't going to affect the A390, but it is. All it does is divert the traffic around the back, and then they got to come back on down into Higher Town. So I think it's a fool's errand, really, and I certainly can't vote for it.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. I'm going to invite Councillor Painter, who proposed this, to comment. I'm aware that neither Pydar nor the stadium nor Langarth are strictly related to this agenda item meeting because this relates to capital uplift. However, Councillor Painter, would you like to comment, please?
Yes, I certainly would do, Madam Chairman. As you say, those items are on the wider capital programme, but they're not for this item today. The item today is about the uplift in the capital programme, which is the vast amount of money is for schools maintenance, which I think we would all agree is extremely important to make sure our children get a good education in buildings that are fit for purpose. I would very much disagree with Councillor Burden and Barnes about the fact that they think that we're gambling on investments. We're certainly not doing any sort of gambling as far as using the money from Cornish taxpayers as well as money from government and other sources. So much of the money that's coming forward, whether it's the road at Langgarth, is funded by government, £49 million. You'll see from the appendix that's appended to our council papers today, it shows exactly where the money's coming from for our capital programme. So, yes, over half the money comes from prudential borrowing, which is money that we've taken from the government's own lending schemes at very low interest rates spread over 50 years. So we're certainly not using any borrowing which is over and above our means as a council. I think we are very careful in what we invest in. We have seen some councils make investments in all sorts of things like shopping centres and office blocks. We've done none of that. We've not invested money outside of Cornwall. We've made sure that our investments are within Cornwall and mainly for housing and jobs. So members can see where the money is aimed at and where it's going. So we certainly are very careful with the money that we're spending. I'm happy for Councillor Harris to get an update on both Pydar and Langgarth as far as the detail of those projects. And I'm sure that officers will be able to do that and do that outside of this meeting, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Painter. I'm aware that Councillors Mitchell and Desmond have indicated that they wish to speak. I'm going to allow this, but I would urge you both to keep your comments as short as possible. Otherwise, we're going to run way past our timetable. After inviting Councillors Mitchell and Desmond to speak, I will then mind you to go to the vote. So Councillor Mitchell first, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Apologies that I hadn't given any notice. I didn't know what was going to be said. And I just wanted to respond following on from the Deputy Leader as to the emotive words of gambling and fantasy, particularly in relation to housing. The number one priority for the people of Cornwall is to have a home which is affordable. And I'll be the first to admit that affordable homes aren't necessarily actually affordable to everybody. But if you hear of what is going on with this pandemic, and Councillor Burden mentioned to financial upset that's going to happen. Also, what we're seeing is a huge increase in the number of sales of houses in Cornwall as second homes. That's something that I don't welcome, and I'm really pleased, and I think we all should be, about this council's intervention, which we all voted for and supported, into the housing market to make sure that we can try and control what is provided here in Cornwall and for who, and that is that this council is certainly prioritising and championing homes for local people. And I just didn't want those words, which were extremely emotive, muddying that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Councillor Desmond.
Thank you, Chair. My question relates to, and my comments relate to, the capital programme announcement in November last year of an £86 million underspend. This underspend related to the Pool Innovation Centre, the housing programme, the investment programme, all manner of things, and that is a huge sum of money. We're now being asked to allocate further capital spend. Are we satisfied that this administration has got the management skills, the drive and the ambition to ensure that what they ask us to authorise in terms of capital spend is going to be delivered? I have great doubts. I think that the whole idea of so much money being spent without proper control, proper management, is absolutely unacceptable. And until they demonstrate that they have the ability to spend this money wisely and deliver rather than make false promises, I will find it very difficult to support an additional sum of money being handed to them to play with. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Desmond. Councillor Painter, I'm going to invite you to respond to Councillor Desmond's questions, and then perhaps you could sum up, and then we will go to the vote after that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I do find it very disappointing hearing Councillor Desmond having a go at our staff like that. We do work very hard within the capital programme to make sure that the programme is delivered on time and on budget. Clearly, when you've got over a £1.1 billion project, and clearly with the challenges going on at the moment, it's not always easy to hit that time frame and the budget. Clearly, the capital programme will have moved this year because of COVID. Last year, yes, there was a lag, and often we do have a lag within the capital programme. It's been my mission to make sure that we reduce that lag as much as possible, so that we do keep up with spend and try and make sure that these programmes and the various different investments come in on time. But when you're dealing with large road infrastructure, housing infrastructure, and many building projects, it's not always easy to make sure that happens. So that's why we have a 4-year rolling programme to make sure that we can keep an eye on what we're doing. Clearly, if a project drops out of that programme, then it's taken away if we don't wish to proceed on it. But it is very complicated to make sure that we can get this programme moving forward as we need it. You know, so we certainly need investment in Cornwall, and much of this programme is funded by outside sources, not by council taxpayers' money. So, you know, there's plenty of schemes in there that come from government funding, and indeed some of the funding today that we're asking to be approved is from central government funding, which will be going into our schools. So I would urge members to approve the relatively small uplift today, which you know, went through Cabinet last week and also last month. So those are the two amounts that we are asking for an uplift over the last two Cabinet meetings. But I would hope members would be able to improve the much needed investment in schools and the place shaping and regeneration money, which again is backed by government funding to improve our towns. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Painter. So I'm now going to move to the vote, and I'm going to invite the monitoring officer in for the roll call, please. And just to remind you, councillors, that we are voting on the recommendation as set out on page 13 of the supplementary pack in relation to the capital programme update. Mel, could I invite you in, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. So as the Chairman's confirmed, members, we're voting on item 11.1 of the agenda today. If I call your name, if you can indicate for or against or abstain, please. Alvey.
Abstain.
Atherford.
Abstain.
Barnes.
Abstain.
Bastin.
Abstain.
Batters.
For.
Biggs.
Abstain.
Biscoe.
For.
Jeff Brown.
For.
Malcolm Brown.
Strongly for.
Paul.
Very for.
Burden.
Against.
Buscombe.
For.
Chopak.
For.
Cole. Councillor Cole. Oh, Councillor Cole's left the call, so I think we'll come back to Councillor Cole at the end, members, to see if he's been able to be on the call at all. Collins.
Abstain.
Craigo.
Against.
Craker.
Abstain.
Davis.
Abstain.
Councillor Dorr.
Abstain.
Councillor Desmond.
Abstain.
Dolphin.
Abstain.
Duffin.
Strongly for.
Dwelly.
For.
Dyer.
Abstain.
Ethorn Gibbons.
Abstain.
Can I just confirm that was Councillor Mike Ethorn Gibbons?
There was a noise before me. I'm very much in favour for.
Thank you, Councillor Ethorn Gibbons. Please can I ask members don't speak when other members are voting, please. Eddie.
For.
Edgerton.
For.
Ecclesmith.
For.
Ellenbrook.
Abstain.
Evans.
Abstain.
Fairman.
For.
Farrington.
For.
Bitter.
For.
Fonk.
For.
Foot.
For.
Formosa.
Abstain.
Frank.
For.
French.
Abstain.
Frost.
For.
Gammon.
For.
German.
For.
Giles.
Abstain.
Greenslade.
4.
Hannaford.
4.
Hardin.
Abstain.
Harris.
Abstain.
Harvey.
Against.
4. Ken.
4.
Hawkins.
4.
Hendry. Councillor Hendry. I'll come back to Councillor Hendry, meeting producer. Hurd.
Abstain.
Hayward.
4.
Holly.
4.
Jenkin.
4.
Jewel. Councillor Jewel, are you able to confirm your vote, please? Meeting producer, I'll come back to Councillor Jewel. Jordan.
Abstain.
Don't believe Kazmarek is on the call, but Kazmarek.
4.
Oh, wonderful, Councillor Kazmarek. Good to have you on the call.
I've been here for hours.
Well, it's good to hear your voice. Keelan.
Abstain.
Kenny.
4.
Kirk.
4.
Kirkham.
4.
Knightley.
4.
LeBroy.
4.
Lennox Boyd.
Abstain.
Long.
4.
Luke.
4.
Fabulous. Colin Martin.
4.
John Martin.
4.
Massey.
4.
May.
4.
McCarthy.
4.
I don't think McKenna's on the call, but I will just check McKenna. McKenna's not on the call at the moment. McLennan.
Abstain.
Andrew Mitchell.
4.
Pete Mitchell.
4.
Monk.
Abstain.
Moorcroft.
4.
Mould.
Abstain.
Musto.
Abstain.
Nolan.
4.
Adrian Parsons.
4.
David Parsons.
4.
Jane Pascoe.
Abstain.
Pascoe.
Abstain.
I'm getting quite a bit of background members. Someone sounds like they're having some nice sweets. If you can just mute your mic if you're not voting for. Mute your mic, apologies if you're not voting. Painter.
4.
Pears.
Abstain.
Pollard.
4.
Pugh.
Abstain.
Rand.
Strongly 4.
Rich.
4.
Robinson.
Abstain.
Rogerson. Councillor Rogerson, can you please confirm your vote?
4.
Thank you. Rotchell.
4.
Rouse.
Abstain.
Rule.
4.
Rushworth.
Abstain.
Thornby.
4.
Saunders.
Abstain.
Beaver.
Abstain.
Simmons.
Abstain.
Hamlin.
4.
Taylor.
Abstain.
Ian Thomas.
4.
Ike Thomas.
4.
Toms.
4.
Howell.
Abstain.
Tudor.
4.
Ver.
Abstain.
Wallace.
4.
White. Councillor White, are you able to confirm your vote, please?
Monitoring officer, I think he has left the call briefly.
Thank you. Peter Williams.
Abstain.
And Wood.
4.
Thank you, members. I just have a few more that I'd like to check if they're on the call. So, meeting producer, please can you confirm if Councillor Hendry is on the call?
I am. Hello. Apologies.
Oh, wonderful. Can I have your
4.
vote, please? Thank you.
4, please.
And meeting producer, I did note that Councillor Cole had left the call. Can you please confirm that he's still not on the call?
I can confirm he's not back on the call.
Thank you. And Councillor Jewel, meeting producer, I don't know if you know if Councillor Jewel is on the call, please.
He should be back with us. Councillor Jewel, are you there?
So, Chairman, we will try to make contact with Councillor Jewell, and we will tally up those votes. So if you could just give us a few minutes, we'll be confirming the outcome of that vote on that item. Thank you, members, for your patience.
Thank you. So whilst that vote is going on, I can advise members that once we have heard the vote, we are going to move into a 10-minute break, which I think we probably will all relish a 10-minute break. So it'll be 10 minutes from the clock. I'm estimating probably perhaps by the time we get the vote in about 11:25, which isn't doing too bad because I kind of thought we would break at about 11:20. So we're only about 5 minutes behind our suggested schedule. So Anita, I think you have the vote outcome now. Could I bring you in, please?
Yes, yes, Chairman, I can confirm that that vote was carried. 65 votes for, 3 against and 41 abstentions.
Lovely, thank you. So that motion was carried. So we're now going to go into the break, councillors. It is 11:25. We are about to start a 10-minute break, so we will resume at 11:35, please. 11:35. Could you make sure you turn off your microphones and turn off your cameras before you leave for this break? Thank you, and see you in 10 minutes. Okay, so it's 11:35. Meeting producer, could I invite you in just to confirm that the live stream link is up and running?
Yes, Chairman, I can confirm that the live stream is running.
Grand, thank you. So then, councillors, we're going to move on into our next section of the agenda. So we're going to start on this section with 12.1. And this next section is actually all recommendations from the Constitution and Governance Committee. And the first of these is 12.1, which is a review of Articles 2, 5 and 9. And I'm going to invite Councillor Pollard, who's the chair of the Constitution and Governance Committee, to move this recommendation, and then Councillor Eddy, who is the vice chair, to second it. You'll find the recommendation set out, councillors, on page 29. That's page 29. Councillor Pollard, over in Hale, can I invite you in, please?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm very happy to move this recommendation. The recommendations here actually relate to the existing updates to the existing constitutional documents and to the creation of a new role profile for the chairman and vice chairman of the audit committee. Members will be aware that we've done a lot of work on the role profiles throughout the council, and I'm very grateful to the members' support for that, including a very successful half a day at Hartman's, if you remember. And this is part of that result of that. And in all cases, the relevant post holders have been, responsibility holders have been consulted fully. Subject to the council's approval, these changes will be made immediately, so they are available in advance of next year's election, albeit there will be further factual changes required once the new council is established. The committee was unanimous in the support of these recommendations, and I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Pollard. Councillor Eddy, could I invite you in, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to echo Councillor Pollard's thoughts and thanks to members for help in reviewing these the Constitution. I think these changes remind us that our values are, as councillors, are selflessness, honesty and integrity, objectivity, accountability, openness and leadership. Those are the values that we act by. So I'm happy to second the motion, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Eddy. I believe Councillor Malcolm Brown would like to say, has some intervention. He would like to say some few words. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this? If there are, please could you indicate by putting an X in the chat box. I'm not seeing any X's in there. Oh, I have Councillor Burden, but first of all, Councillor Malcolm Brown. Can I invite you in first, please? And then I will invite Councillor Neil Burden.
Yes, I'm only going to speak very briefly, Madam Chairman, just to confirm the recommendations which have come from the Constitution and Governance Committee, which I'm a member of, were all absolutely unanimous. We were well led by our chairman and by officers, and we've come to sensible conclusions, improving on what is already a good document in the Constitution. The only comment I would make is that maybe the section about the role of the chairman of council could be deleted, and instead we could ask people in future to watch the video of this meeting and to see how excellently you are performing your duties.
Thank you, Councillor Brown, for that vote of confidence. I've just had a saffron bun in the break. That's what's given me the energy to charge on with this. So, Councillor Burden, please.
Yes, thank you again. Sorry to speak again, but one thing alarms me on page 59, and perhaps the chairman or the vice chairman would like to respond. It crossed out in the first paragraph, current issues as that one. Sorry, to assist the chairman in fulfilling their duties, they shall be briefed as required on current issues by the chief executive, the leader, the monitoring officer, and chief financial officer. That's been crossed out. I would have thought that's imperative, that the chairman is kept fully briefed on all aspects, all issues, all problems, so that the chairman then can be rather able to manage when things go a little bit wrong, because they know. And I just think, Madam Chairman, you need all that help. It always was done that the leader and the chief executive always had an hour or two with the chairman every week, to fully brief them. And now it looks like that's out the window, and I'm not very happy about that, because that's disrespect to you and whoever succeeds you as chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burden. Before inviting Councillor Pollard to speak, can I just advise that somebody is actually sharing their screen? It could be, I'm not quite sure who it is. Somebody has inadvertently clicked on the share your screen button. Meeting producer, are you able to see from the participants who this is?
Chairman, I'm just checking and I can't easily see who's sharing their screen.
No. I'm just trying to work out. So, councillors, if you toggle
Madam
your mouse
Chairman,
around. Yes.
Madam Chairman, I think it's Malcolm Brown, Councillor Brown. On my screen, it's appearing on the bottom left-hand corner. Malcolm B is appearing there, so I'm thinking it could be Malcolm.
Okay. So, councillors, if you toggle your mouse around, you should see the toolbar. And just to the left of the red button that says leave, there is a sign that says, good, it's back, hurrah. So I'm going to invite Councillor Pollard to respond. After you've responded, Councillor Pollard, I do have some other councillors who would like to raise questions, but first of all, Councillor Pollard.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Just to answer Neil's point, and officers will advise me if I'm incorrect here, but I don't think the minute actually prohibits any kind of personal discussion between anybody and the chairman. That's entirely the chairman's discretion, as always has been. The line on my copy ends at the chairman shall be briefed as required on current issues, and therefore it opens for anybody to do that briefing rather than closing it down. If that's not wrong, if that's wrong, then I'm sure Mel or Anita will put me right.
Mel, could I invite you in to clarify just that point, please? Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm really pleased to be able to say that I can confirm that the Chairman of the Constitutional Governance Committee is correct in their interpretation. And just to be clear on that, it was felt that it didn't need to be restricted, and that actually the Chairman should require being updated on current issues from a wider forum than just the Monitoring Officer, Chief Executive and Section 151 officer. So I think that was the thought behind the removal. It definitely wasn't to restrict anything further.
Thank you, Monitoring Officer, for that confirmation. So we have three councillors who would like to raise some points. The first is Councillor Biscoe, then Councillor Fitter, and then finally Councillor Mike Thomas. Councillor Biscoe, please.
Madam Chairman, firstly, could I echo Councillor Brown's words of praise and thanks to you for eating all the saffron in salt ash. You keep going. I just wanted to say that I understand that the law, as it's written, that says that if the Crown, for whom we all basically exist, if the Crown requires an explanation of what's going on in the council, the one person who the Crown requires to be accountable to it is indeed the chairman. Neither the leader nor the chief executive, but the chairman. And it seems to me that what is set out in the original text, which is proposed to be struck out, is essentially the inclusion of the chairman in the senior discussion, management discussion of the council's business. And that is essentially no more or less shorthand for saying if there's somebody who knows more than the chief executive or the leader about issue X, they can bring them along. But that is a shorthand for saying that. And it does seem to me that by taking that out, I have some sympathy with Mr. Burden. It seems to me that it runs the risk at critical moments of leaving the chairman wondering who to ask about what, and that is not a good position for the chairman, who ultimately is at law the accountable member to the Crown. It leaves the chairman in a slightly exposed position. I would just make that suggestion. I'm not going to oppose the recommendation, but it does seem to me to be a bit of an oddity.
Thank you. I do note your comments. I'm going to go to Councillor Fitter first, and then Councillor Mike Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much indeed, Madam Chairman. I just wondered, in the report itself, on page 38, 9.1 comprehensive impact assessment implications. I wonder, John, if you have any suggestions for the next council, how you will address the end of the paragraph where you say any member should be in a position to assume a position of special responsibility, again with appropriate training and support, if that member is elected as a standalone independent member joining no political party. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Fitter, and Councillor Mike Thomas.
Thank you very much. Saltash is looking wonderful this morning. My thanks to Councillor Pollard and Councillor Eddy and the committee for their work. I just have an observation on page 44 about the role of the Cornwall councillor, and I would like to attend that meeting, but I wasn't able to get there. And I just wonder whether the item about attending and participating in meetings might be raised much further up the bullet point list. Because clearly being a Cornwall councillor and with less members, there's going to be a real requirement for people to belong to committees and attend meetings. And if we don't have councillors who are able to do that, then we will be severely challenged. And what will happen, of course, is that members who are able to attend, more of them will be required to give up their time attending such meetings. It's just an observation, not in any way criticism. Absolutely fantastic work, really wonderful bedtime reading. But I just wonder if that could be moved as a greater priority, that of being participating. The fact that if you sign up to be a councillor, you also agree to participate in meetings. Thank you, and you're doing great.
Thank you, and I would echo those comments that excellent work has been conducted by the Constitution Governance Committee, and these 3 points, though, are excellent. Councillor Pollard, would you like to respond to them? Councillor Pollard, I can't hear you. I think you're still on mute.
Sorry, I keep forgetting to unmute myself. On the 2 points just raised, Councillor Fitter is quite correct. I think the point of that statement in those reports to us is that nothing should actually stand in the way of the equal opportunity for members. In other words, if you have a disability or whatever, that should not be a bar to office. However, that then collides with the other arrangements of the council, because we are a political entity. So I take the point, but I just think that there's a collision there of two opposing, or not totally opposing, but two different approaches. And we just have to accept that anybody can put themselves up, but there is a certain criteria which you'll have to fulfill to do with politics before that works in the current situation. So I've got no advice for the new council except experience when the new council is formed may well change some of that. In terms of Mike Thomas's point, I don't think they're in any priority order, Mike. I think they're all of equal priority, and therefore they are as they are.
Thank you, Councillor Pollard. I think there must be a bit of a time lag between Keyhelland and Saltash, because Councillor Biggs, I've just spotted your X in the chat box. So if I could bring you in now, please, Councillor Biggs.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I regret I wasn't able to attend the last Constitution and Governance meeting, but this issue in 5.1, well-intentioned I think it is, but it now leaves a statement which is, in my view, illogical. By just deleting the words by the Chief Executive, etc., you've left a sentence which says, to assist the chairman in fulfilling their duties, they shall be briefed as required on current issues, but you don't say by whom or how. Now, you're either saying too little or you're saying too much, but either way, that statement as it stands to me doesn't form any kind of rational sentiment, and therefore I have some sentiment with those who say it should either be left as it is, or you say nothing at all and just give wide-ranging powers to the chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Biggs. And before I invite Councillor Pollard to comment, I'm just going to say it's good to see you back, Councillor Biggs. I know you haven't been very well, so nice to see you. Councillor Pollard.
Yeah, can I echo that? Great to see you, Dave. I take the point entirely. I think my compromise would be to put it after the current issues, including by, and then that covers all eventualities. So, the chairman have full briefing. They can be briefed at their behest by anybody, but including, just to cover that point, would that satisfy Councillor Biggs, Councillor Bird?
Could I invite you, first of all, Councillor Pollard, to see if your Vice Chair is in agreement to that wording?
Sorry, I apologise.
Sorry. Councillor Eddy, would you agree to that addition of that wording? Councillor Pollard, could you just read it out again, please, just to make sure we all heard it correctly?
Well, what I'm suggesting is that to assist the chairman in fulfilling their duties, they shall be briefed as required on current issues, and then in brackets, including by the chief executive and so on, just to make the point. But I don't personally think the point needs to be made, to be honest. But if that is the wish of the council, then I would certainly accept that.
Councillor Eddy, your view, please.
I've listened to the debate. I agree that I would like to support the proposed change. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And councillors who've spoken to this debate, could you indicate with an X in the chat box that you would be minded to agree with the revised wording as Councillor Pollard has just read out? So I've seen an X from Councillor Biggs, Councillor Biscoe, and the light has just gone out. Okay, right then, and Councillor Fitter, Councillor Wood, do you have a question?
No question. I attended the meeting and I was agreeing with the changing the wording. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you very much. Grand, in which case, Councillor Pollard, do you need to sum up at all? Are you happy for us to go to the vote?
No, I'm very happy to go to the vote with that minor change to 5-1.
Grand, so if I'm going to invite the monitoring officer back into the live stream, please. So we are voting on, it will be taken by roll call. We are voting on the recommendation as set out on page 29. This is for agenda item number 12.1. Councillor Burden, can I just clarify, is your double X in the chat box supporting the revised wording?
Yes, that's
Good.
why I put 2 X's.
Good, oh lovely, thank you. I thought you were blowing me kisses. All right then, Mel, if I could invite you back in, please.
Probably perfect timing to go to a vote, Chairman. Members, if I can ask you to indicate for, against or abstention. So I'll start. Alvey.
For.
Atherford.
For.
Barnes. Councillor Barnes. Oh, could you just repeat that for me, Councillor Barnes? Councillor Barnes, are you able to confirm your vote, please?
Yes,
4. Wonderful, thank you, Councillor Barnes. Baston.
4.
Batters.
4.
Biggs.
4.
Biscoe.
4.
Jeff Brown. Councillor Jeff Brown. I'll come back to Jeff Brown. Malcolm Brown.
4.
Full.
4.
Burden.
4.
Buscombe.
4.
Chopak.
4.
Thank you. Cole.
4.
Collins.
4.
Crago.
4.
Craker.
4.
Davis.
4.
Daw. I know you're in the phone, Councillor Daw, so I'm giving you a little bit more time. I'll come back to Councillor Daw. Desmond. Councillor Desmond, are you able to confirm your vote, please? I'll come back to Councillor Desmond. Dolphin.
4.
Duffin.
4.
Dwelly.
4.
Dyer.
4.
Ethan Gibbons.
4.
Eddie.
4.
Edgerton.
4.
Eckert-Smith.
4.
Ellenbrook.
4.
Evans.
4.
Fairman.
4.
Barrington.
4.
Fitter.
4.
Funk.
4.
Foot.
4.
Formosa.
4.
Frank.
4.
French.
4.
Frost.
4.
Gammon.
4.
German.
4.
Giles.
4.
Greenslade.
4.
Hannaford.
4.
Hardin.
4.
Harris.
4.
Harvey.
4.
Hawken.
4.
Hawkins.
4.
Hendry.
4.
Councillor Hendry, can you just reconfirm your vote for me, please?
4.
Thank you. Hurd.
4.
Hayward. Councillor Hayward, are you able to confirm your vote? I shall come back to you. Holly.
4.
Jenkins. 4. Councillor Jenkins, are you able to confirm your vote, please?
4.
Thank you. Jewel.
4.
Jordan.
4.
Kasmarek. Councillor Kasmarek, are you able to confirm your vote? Come back to Councillor Kasmarek. I do know he's on the line. Keelan.
4.
Kenny.
4.
Kirk.
4.
Kirkham.
4.
Knightley.
4.
LeBroy.
4.
Lennox Boyd.
4.
Long.
4.
Luke.
4.
Colin Martin.
4.
John Martin.
4.
Massey.
4.
May.
4.
Carthy.
4.
McKenna.
4.
McLennan.
4.
Andrew Mitchell.
4.
Mitchell.
4.
Monk.
4.
Moorcroft.
4.
Mould.
4.
Musto.
4.
Nolan.
4.
Adrian Parsons.
4.
David Parsons.
4.
Jane Pascoe.
4.
Lionel Pascoe.
4.
Painter.
4.
Pears. Councillor Pears, are you able to confirm your vote for me, please? Come back to Councillor Pears. Pollard.
4.
You.
4.
Brand.
4.
Rich.
4.
Thank you, Councillor Rich. Robinson. Councillor Robinson, are you able to confirm
4.
your vote? Thank you. Rogerson.
4.
Rochdale.
4.
Rouse.
4.
Raw.
4.
Rushworth.
4.
Thornby.
4.
Saunders.
4.
Deaver.
4.
Simmons.
4.
Tamlin.
4.
Taylor.
4.
Ian Thomas.
4.
Mike Thomas.
4.
Toms.
4.
Towell. Councillor Towell, are you able to confirm your vote, please?
Yeah, sorry. 4.
Wonderful, thank you. Stick with me. Tudor.
4.
Thank you. Burr.
4.
Wallace.
4.
White. Councillor Wise, are you able to confirm your vote? I know you're on the phone.
Monitor officers, I don't think he's with us at the moment.
Okay, thank you, Lou. Councillor Peter Williams.
4.
Wood.
4.
So members, I do have a few members. I just need to check whether they're on the call and see if I can record their vote. So Councillor Jeff Brown, meeting producer, can you confirm if he's returned to the call yet?
I'm not aware that he's returned to the call.
Okay, I'll just give one final. Councillor Brown, please can you confirm your vote? No, we'll take him as absent from the vote. Councillor Dorr, I believe, is on the phone, meeting producer. Councillor Dorr, please can you confirm your vote?
I don't think she's any longer on the phone, on the call.
Fabulous, thank you for confirming. Councillor Desmond, has had to leave, so he's not there at the moment. So thank you for that confirmation. Councillor Haywood.
Yes, apologies, my cursor keeps jamming.
Oh, no problem.
Sorry, the vote was 4.
Wonderful, thank you. Councillor Kazmarek. Meeting producer, can you confirm if he's on the call?
He is showing us on the call, but I'm not sure if he's with us or not.
Okay, we'll check that up when we record the vote, but we are aware Councillor Kazmarek has been okay with accessing the meeting. Councillor Pears.
Yeah, Councillor Pears here. Sorry, my mute button wouldn't work.
Very unfortunate on a roll call. Please, yes. Can I take your vote?
4.
Thank you. And then meeting producer, I think you confirmed that Councillor White wasn't on the call, but please can I just check that?
Yeah, that's correct. He's not with us at the moment.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Chairman. If you can just give us a few moments to tally up that vote, and then my Democratic Services Officer will confirm the vote.
Lovely, thank you.
Chairman, I can confirm the vote now. That was carried unanimously with 108 votes.
Lovely. Thank you kindly, Monitoring Officer and Councillors. So we're now going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is agenda item number 12.2. Again, this is another recommendation from the Constitution Governance Committee. It's around Article 4, which is the policy framework. I'm going to invite Councillor Pollard to move and Councillor Eddy to second the recommendation. Councillors, you'll find this set out on page 65. So, Councillor Pollard, please.
Thank you very much. The committee has carried out detailed work on the review of the Council's policy framework, which sets out the plans and strategies that need to go to full Council for approval and adoption. The proposed changes are set out on page 77 of the agenda pack. You will note that some of these plans and strategies are mandatory for the Council, whilst others are adopted as a matter of local choice. Appendix 1 confirms the reasons for the proposed changes at paragraphs 2.2 and 2.5. And again, the committee was unanimous in support of these recommendations.
Thank you. Could I turn to Councillor Eddy, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I'd like to second the motion. We reviewed also the principles of the policy framework reviews, which gave the Council great flexibility as to which to review these policies at a future date. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking for X's in the chat box if anybody would like to speak. I believe Councillor Eakins-Mighty would like to speak. David, are you with us?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm here, and I'd just like to say just a few comments, really. First of all, to reinforce what was said in the first item, as a member of the Constitution and Governance Committee, to applaud the amount of work that goes on to get these sort of things in front of the Council, and the seriousness with which this was taken, given the comments made by members at previous meetings, and the quite understandable requirement that members should feel fully involved in the strategies and other things that are discussed on the Council. I believe that the committee has done just that, and I would I therefore fully recommend to my colleagues that they vote for it. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, David. So I'm looking for any other X's in the chat box. I'm not seeing any. Whilst I'll just give a few seconds for any other councillors to comment, but thank you, Councillor Eakins-Mighty. Those comments were very helpful. I'm not seeing any other X's. No. Well done, Monitoring Officer. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. So just to be clear to members, we're voting on item 12.2 in your agenda packs, and the recommendation is on page 65. I'm hoping for a full house on this one, members. So let's see how we go. So if you can confirm for, against or abstain, that would be really appreciated. Alvey.
4.
Adderfold.
4.
Barnes.
4.
Bassett.
4.
Batters.
4.
Biggs.
4.
Bisco.
4.
Jeff Brown.
Abstain. I've only just rejoined the meeting.
Oh, welcome back, Jeff. Malcolm Brown.
4.
Paul.
4.
Burden.
4.
Buscombe.
4.
Chopak,
4.
Cole,
4.
Collins. Councillor Collins, are you able to confirm your vote for me, please?
4.
Fabulous. Crago,
4.
Craker,
4.
Davis,
4.
Daw. Councillor Daw, are you able to confirm your votes? We'll come back to Councillor Daw. Desmond. Councillor Desmond, are you back on the call? We'll come back to Desmond. I was doing so well, members. I've only made it to D. Right, Dolphin. Councillor Dolphin, are you able to confirm your vote for me, please? I'll come back. Oh, thank you, Councillor Dolphin. You saved the D's. Duffin.
4.
Dwelly.
4.
Dyer.
4.
Ethan.
4.
Eddie.
4.
4.
Ekin Smythe.
4.
Ellenbrook.
4.
Evans.
4.
Behrman.
4.
Barrington. 4. Bitter.
4.
Funk.
4.
Foot.
4.
Formosa.
4.
Frank.
4.
French.
4.
Frost.
4.
Gammon.
4.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you, Councillor Gammon. German.
4.
Giles.
4.
Greenslade.
4.
Hannaford.
4.
Hardin.
4.
Harris.
4.
Harvey.
4.
Hawkin.
4.
Hawkins.
4.
Hendry.
4.
Hurd.
4.
Hayward.
4.
Holly.
4.
Jenkin.
4.
Jewel.
4.
Jordan.
4.
Kazmarek. We don't think Kazmarek is on the call, but we'll confirm later. Keelan. Councillor Oh, thank you. Can you just repeat that for me, Councillor Keelan?
Yes. 4.
Fabulous, thank you. Kenny.
4.
Kirk.
4.
Kirkham.
4.
Knightley.
4.
LeBroy.
4.
Lennox Boyd.
4.
Long.
4.
Luke.
4.
Colin Martin.
4.
John Martin.
4.
Massey.
4.
May.
4.
McCarthy.
4.
McKenna.
4.
McLennan.
4.
Andrew Mitchell.
4.
Pete Mitchell.
4.
Monk.
4.
Moorcroft.
4.
Maud.
4.
Musto.
4.
Nolan.
4.
Adrian Parsons.
4.
David Parsons.
4.
Jane Pascoe.
4.
Lionel Pascoe.
4.
Painter.
4.
Pears.
4.
Pollard.
Sorry, 4.
You had me worried. Pugh.
4.
Rand.
4.
Rich.
4.
Robinson.
4.
Rogerson.
4.
Rochell.
4.
Rouse.
4.
Ball.
4.
Rushworth.
4.
Sorby.
4.
Councillor Sorby, can you just repeat that vote for me, please?
4.
Fabulous. Saunders.
Monitoring officer, she's left the call for a moment.
Thank you. Seaver.
4.
Simmons.
4.
Tamlin.
4.
Taylor.
4.
Ian Thomas.
4.
Mike Thomas.
4.
Toms.
4.
Towel.
4.
Tudor.
4.
Fur.
4.
Wallace.
4.
White. Councillor White, are you able to confirm your vote? I've got a feeling you've left the call, but I'll pick that up with the meeting producer. And finally, Peter Williams.
4.
Okay, so meeting producer, I understand that Councillor Wood has now left the call. Please can you confirm if Councillor Dora is on the call?
No, I don't believe she's with us any longer.
Thank you. We know Councillor Desmond wasn't on the call for the last vote, so I'm assuming still not on the call. Councillor Desmond, final opportunity to vote. If you are on the call, please can you confirm your vote?
I can't see that he's present.
Okay, and Councillor Kazmarek.
4.
Thank you, Councillor Kazmarek.
Sorry, I got people working outside, so I'm in and out at the moment. So
it's
okay.
fine. Appreciate your vote. And then I believe Councillor White has left the call, meeting producer.
I believe he has, yes.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you, Chairman and members. That concludes the vote on this item. We will confirm the vote in a few seconds.
Thank you.
Chairman, I can confirm the outcome of the vote was 107 votes for and 1 abstention, so that vote is carried.
Lovely. Thank you, councillors, which means we can move on to the next item on the agenda. So everybody, we are now at item agenda number 12.3, and this is another recommendation from the Constitution and Governance Committee. It relates to the Pensions Committee 2021, and I'm going to invite Councillor Pollard to move this, Councillor Eddy to second it. You will find the recommendation set out on page 81, councillors. After it has been moved and seconded, I'm going to invite Councillor Derek Holly, who is the chair of the Pensions Committee, just to say a few words. So first of all, though, please, Councillor Pollard.
Yes, thank you very much. Nice to see Derek Holly popping up. This recommendation relates to the future size of the Pensions Committee in 2021. In line with the Council's previous decisions on committees of the same size, the Constitution and Governance Committee recommends a reduction in the membership of the elected members from 10 to 8. No changes are proposed to the number of employer representatives, and it is recommended that the quorum is 1/3 of the membership, at least 3 of whom must be members of the council. The committee had expected to carry out a more detailed review of the committee's terms of reference in the light of the fact that the government was undertaking a review of the governance relating to local government pension schemes. However, the government guidance has been delayed due to the pandemic, and the statutory guidance is not yet available. It's expected to be published and effective from the 1st of April 2021. Therefore, the committee's final recommendation is for the new council to review the impact of this guidance once established. Again, the committee was unanimous in support of the recommendations on page 81.
Lovely. Thank you, Councillor Pollard. Councillor Eddy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm happy to move all 3 recommendations.
Thank you. Short and sweet. Councillor Holly, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just want to clear up 1 or 2 things for members, because this does come on a fairly regular basis. The Cornwall Council is required by law to administer a pension scheme. It's delegated that responsibility to the Pensions Committee, which is why the Constitution and Governance Committee has a role in making suggestions of this type. However, members, you've got to understand that the Pensions Committee is slightly different to other committees on the council, partly because we are responsible under certain government acts, local government pensions acts as well, for our role in our acts and our functions. For example, our primary responsibility is to the 55,000 members, including all the officers listening, which is probably why they're so nice to me as I walk along the corridors of County Hall, and to 150 employers, of which Cornwall Council is just one of those employers. The others are largely schools, but colleges, etc., and some of our companies, council companies as well. So there is that difference. The other difference is, Madam Chairman, is that we have 2 fully voting employers reps and 2 fully voting member elected reps from the 55,000 members who we're responsible to. So we have considered this, these motions.
30 seconds.
We recognise the responsibilities of this committee, and we recognise the reduction in size which will be necessary. And just to clarify one thing, we do have full training. It's implied in section 3 of the recommendation. We don't have training. We do have full and ongoing training every meeting and 3 full days a year. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Lovely. Thank you, Councillor Holly. That was a really helpful clarification. Is there anybody else who would wish to speak to this? I have Councillor Pete Mitchell has indicated he wishes to speak. Is there anybody else? If so, could you please put an X in the chat box? No. First of all, then Councillor Pete Mitchell, if you could come in, please.
I don't know where that's come from because I haven't put myself down to speak, but if anybody wants me to, I will. But I think Derek covered it.
Okay. Grand. Thank you. Sorry about that. Grant, oh, wait a minute. I'm just going to put my camera on. The lights have gone off here. Okay. Are there any other councillors who wish to speak to this, please? If so, please indicate with an X in the chat box. Nope. Okay, I will then bring in the monitoring officer to go to the roll call vote. And again, this is on agenda item number 12.3, the future shape of the Pensions Committee in 2021. And the recommendation is set out on page 81. Over to you, please, Mel.
Thanks, Chairman. I'm hoping to get a full house on this one, so let's see how we go. So, Councillor Alvey.
4.
Atherford.
4.
Barnes.
4.
Baston.
4.
Batters.
4.
Biggs. Councillor Biggs, are you able to confirm your vote, please? I'll make a note of that name. Meeting producer. Biscoe.
4.
Jeff Brown.
4.
Malcolm Brown.
4.
Bull.
4.
Furden.
4.
Buscombe.
4.
Chopak.
4.
Hole.
4.
Collins. Councillor Collins, are you able to confirm your vote, please?
4.
Fabulous. Craigo. Councillor Craigo, are you able to confirm your vote? I'll come back to you. Councillor Craker.
4.
Davis.
4.
Daw. I'll come back to Councillor Daw. We don't believe she's on the call, but she hasn't formally notified, so we'll check at the end. Desmond. Okay, I'll come back to Councillor Desmond. We don't believe him to be on the call. Dolphin. 4. 4. Dwelly.
4.
Dyer.
4.
Ethan Gibbons.
4.
Eddie.
4.
Edgerton.
4.
Councillor Edgerton, can you just confirm that vote was 4, please?
Yeah, 4. Can you hear me? 4.
Yeah, I can hear. We just got a bit of interference on the line. Thank you. Eckensmith.
4.
Ellenbrook.
4.
Evans.
4.
Hemmam.
4.
Barrington.
4.
Fitter.
4.
Font.
4.
Foot.
4.
Formosa. Councillor Formosa, are you able to confirm your vote, please?
Yes, 4.
Thank you. Frank.
4.
French.
4.
Frost.
4.
Gammon.
4.
German.
4.
Giles.
4.
Greenslade.
4.
Hannaford.
4.
Hardin.
4.
Harris.
4.
Harvey.
4.
Hawkin.
4.
Hawkins.
4.
Hendry.
4.
Hurd.
4.
Hayward.
4.
Holly.
4.
Jenkins.
4.
Bless you. Councillor Jenkins, can you just reconfirm your vote for me, please?
4.
Thank you. Jewel.
4.
Jordan.
4.
Kazmarek.
4.
Keelan.
4.
Kenny.
4.
Kirk.
4.
Kirkham.
4.
Knightley.
4.
LeBroy.
4.
Lennox Boyd.
4.
Long.
4.
Luke.
4.
Colin Martin.
4.
John Martin.
4.
Massey.
4.
May.
4.
McCarthy.
4.
McKenna.
4.
McLennan. McLennan, are you able to confirm your vote, please?
4. Apologies.
Thank you.
4.
Andrew Mitchell.
4.
Pete Mitchell.
4.
Monk.
4.
Moorcroft.
4.
Mould.
4.
Musto.
4.
Nolan.
4.
Adrian Parsons.
4.
David Parsons.
4.
Jane Pascoe.
4.
Lionel Pascoe.
4.
Painter.
4.
Hares.
4.
Pollard.
4.
Pugh.
4.
Rand.
4.
Rich.
4.
Councillor Rich, can you confirm your vote again for me, please?
Sorry, someone's calling on the phone. Sorry, 4.
Oh, thank you. Robinson.
4.
Rogerson.
4.
Councillor Rogers, can you just confirm that was a 4 for me, please?
It was, yes.
Thank
4.
you. There's just a bit of an echo there. Rochel.
4.
Rouse.
4.
Rule.
4.
Rushworth.
4.
Sawnby.
4.
Saunders.
4.
Seaver.
4.
Simmons.
4.
Tamlin.
4.
Taylor.
4.
Ian Thomas.
4.
Mike Thomas.
4.
Councillor Thomas, are you able to confirm your vote for me, please?
Yes, 4.
Thank you. Councillor Towell. Councillor Towell.
4.
Thank you. Tudor.
4.
Ver.
4.
Wallace.
4.
White.
4.
Thank you, Councillor White. Peter Williams.
4.
Thank you. Thank you, members. Just a few votes that I was unable to get there, so I'll liaise with the meeting producer. Councillor Biggs. Thank you, Councillor Biggs. Councillor Craigo.
4.
Thank you, Councillor Craigo. Councillor Desmond, I'm not sure if he's returned to the call.
He's not on the call.
No, thank you. I don't believe Councillor Dorr is on the call either. Meeting producer, are you able to confirm?
No, they're not on the call.
Brilliant. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members. That concludes the vote. We'll confirm the outcome in a second.
Chairman, I can confirm that that vote was unanimous with 110 votes in support.
Excellent. Thank you very much, councillors, and thank you, officers. So we're going to move on to the final item of this before we break for lunch, which is item agenda number 12.4. And I've just got to move my cursor onto my other screen. This is relating to meetings during the pre-election period. I'm going to ask Councillor Pollard to move this, Councillor Eddy to second it. The recommendation, you will find it on page 89, councillors, page 89. So Councillor Pollard, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. And can I thank members for their support for the work of the committee this morning. This final one is an issue that arose as a result of requests from members. Activities during the pre-election period are governed by the Code of Recommended Practice on Local Authority Publicity, which is attached on page 101 of the agenda. The recommended approach is that the presumption will be that meetings will continue during this time. For quasi-judicial meetings, it is vital that there is a timely consideration of applications. This confirms the authority's proposed approach for quasi-judicial matters. In other words, they will meet because those decisions have to be made. For other meetings, the presumption is that meetings will also continue, but a process has been included to give a formality to the decisions whether to proceed. The monitoring officer will consult with the relevant chairman and vice chairman, taking account of the code and the nature of business involved. Paragraph 2.7 on page 96 sets out the meetings that are due to take place during the pre-election period in 2021.
This is based on the experience of the last council to enable as much business as possible to be completed before the pre-election period. And you'll see from the calendar, there are actually very few meetings during that period. The final recommendation is to update the Constitution to provide clarity for the future. The committee again was unanimous in support of the recommendations, and I move those recommendations, please.
Thank you, Councillor Pollard. Councillor Eddy, please.
That's always the trouble with following Councillor Pollard. He says it all, and that's my job to second a motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eddy. So we have Councillors Mould and Councillor Eakins-Smythe. They had indicated beforehand that they wanted to speak to this, and then following them we will have Councillors Kirkham, Harris and Barnes. So Councillor Mould first, please, and then it'll be Councillor Eakins-Smythe.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Page 103.8, the Local Authorities Regulation Act says prohibiting councils publishing material in the 28 days immediately before a referendum. Just looking for some clarity that will be the case. That 28-day rule will follow the elections next May. And if that is so confirmed, can I propose that is added as clarity in point 3 of the recommendation, please?
Thank you. Councillor Eakins-Smythe.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just once again, I wanted to confirm what the chairman has so eloquently described, as he always does, as the outcome of the committee meeting. I think this is a very important topic, as did the committee, and it was discussed very fully. And I think the outcome is eminently logical. And based on experience and the tool which is going to help chairman and vice chairman to decide, I think is also going to be very useful. So I'm happy to support this.
Thank you. So now we have Councillors Kirkham, then I will call on Councillor Harris and then Councillor Barnes. So Councillor Kirkham first, please.
Thank you. I'm not on Constitution and Governance. I think I'd quite like to be on it, though. It's one of those committees I'm very interested in. The LGA advice on page 112 says we're allowed to discharge normal council business, and Councillor Pollard has just said there will be a presumption that those meetings will go ahead. On page 96, the Health and Wellbeing Board is due on the 29th of April, an audit on the 30th of April. Now, those are normal council business, so I'm assuming that those two meetings will be brought forward out of the PERDA period, and I wonder if you could just confirm that would be that my presumption's right there. There's no scrutiny meetings next April, but if there were, I'm presuming that they would also be normal council business and would go ahead, but point 2.8 says they will either be brought forward or the agenda management tool will be used. So I just wanted confirmation about scrutiny meetings and whether those would be brought forward or whether it would be presumed that they wouldn't go ahead, because that concerns me a little.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Kirkham. Councillor Harris, please.
Thank you. Two things. I think Councillor Mould actually proposed an amendment to the resolution such that we would set out that the pre-election period would be defined as 28 days. It isn't actually defined anywhere as such. And to the extent that is proposed, I would like to second it. And then following on from Councillor Kirkham's comment, yes, paragraph 2.8 on page 96 is slightly concerning. For other meetings during this period, it's proposed they are either brought forward or through the use of the agenda management tool, determine whether they continue. Well, I would like to ask that any relevant meetings, such as audit, where I'm particularly concerned, is brought forward. So just to leave it pending or to leave it to after elections, etc., would be wrong and undemocratic. And I would like that assurance that would happen. But my first point is I will second Councillor Mould's amendment to the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. I'm going to bring in the monitoring officer because I understand. Sorry, Mel, if you could come in, please, on that point.
Yes, of course, Chairman. So I am happy to speak to the other matters, but I will leave the Chairman of the Constitution and Governance Committee to reply and bringing me in as he feels appropriate. I just really wanted to comment on the proposed amendment that's been placed forward. So our attention was drawn to page 103 and the specific paragraph, which is in relation to paragraph 8. I just wanted to give clarity. So the recommendation is quite clear that any decision will be made in accordance with the Code of Practice on Local Authority Publicity, and that document I've just referred you to is the Code of Local Authority Practice on Publicity. So the recommendation does cover that requirement because it has an explicit reference to the whole documentation. And also, just to be clear to members, you'll know in a local government context we get lots of different types of guidance. This is what is called statutory guidance, and what that means for us as a local authority is that we have to have regard to it. It carries more weight. So I appreciate the proposed amendment, but do just want to be clear that it is already covered because of the requirement under the recommendation that we take into account that code of practice and the nature of business. I also need to be clear that where there's anything in legislation, it's my role as the council's monitoring officer to ensure that we comply with that legislation. So those are the 2 points that I would make in relation to the amendment, Chairman.
Yes, thank you. I see you put an X in the box, Councillor Harris, and I will bring you in. But first, I want to go back to Councillor Mould. Councillor Mould, if you could come in. I hope you've heard what the monitoring officer has just said. Do you still wish to propose an amendment in this case?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I did hear, and I do understand. My point for raising it was really for clarity, for you know, council members that are new and they may not be completely au fait with all this. I think if the 28 days were in there, it just provides clarity that that is what will happen.
And Councillor Harris, do you still wish to second this amendment?
I think if we can take what the monitoring officer has said to be an absolute undertaking, that under no circumstances would the pre-election period be determined to be anything greater than 28 days, which I think is what she said, and she's the person in the end who decides this, I would be quite happy to take the word of an eminent lawyer.
Eminent lawyer, could I bring you in, please?
Thanks, Chairman. And with your permission, I might just outline some of the law in this area just to be clear on it. So we're touching on here on a specific provision around the 28 days. The pre-election period as set out in the guidance is actually 6 weeks. So just to give that, so the actual guidance from the LGA is 6 weeks. It's in this local code of practice that there's that reference to 28 days. Just in terms of what the law says, so the section 4 of the Local Government Act 1986, and this applies all of the time, not just in Purda, says that the local authority may not publish any material which in whole or part appears to be designed to affect the public's support for a political party. And this is all about ensuring that we're not swaying that political vote during a pre-election period. The Code of Practice requires us during that time to pay particular regard during those heightened periods of sensitivity. And what it's quite clear on is that during those periods, we are allowed to discharge normal council business, including budget consultations or determining planning applications, even if they're controversial. So I guess my response will be that I will always be guided by that statutory guidance in making those conclusions around matters of that nature. I hope that's provided some clarity. Councillor Harris, I'm not sure if I explicitly answered your question. If not, happy to come back and confirm.
Councillor Harris?
I'm happy to hear the other speakers first before commenting. I think we've got two eminent long-term councillors up on the list. I'd like to hear what they both have to say.
And we've got quite a few eminent long-term councillors up on the list. I'm having a look here. So there's also Councillor Jenkin and Councillor Brown, Malcolm Brown and Councillor Biggs. I'm presuming you all wish to speak to this point. If that is correct, could I bring in Councillor Jenkin first, please? And just by the way, sorry, Councillor Barnes, I haven't forgotten you. You're there once we've cleared this issue. I will come back to you, Councillor Barnes. So Councillor Jenkin.
This was on another point on page 96. So
okay, I will bring you in later then, Loveday. Thank you. Grand, so Councillor Brown, Malcolm Brown.
Yes, I'm not speaking for or against the amendment,
but I'm intrigued by the 28-day period, because my understanding is that the close of nominations for the Cornwall Council elections, assuming they take place next year, are well before that. And I was interested that the monitoring officer, in her comments after I put my hand up, did refer to a 6-week period. I'm all in favour of clarity and I'm all in favour of democracy, but I do think we need absolutely clear understanding of this. What I would suggest to Councillor Mould and to Councillor Pollard, if Councillor Pollard were to offer to take this back to the Constitution and Governance Committee to have another look at, if she were to withdraw her amendment, I think that would be constructive, because I think it's difficult for members on the basis of the information that we've been provided with, which I don't think is complete or clear enough for us to make absolutely binding decisions.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. That's very helpful. I'm going to bring in Councillor Biggs, who I'm presuming wishes to speak on this point before going back to Councillor Pollard for his view. Councillor Biggs.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chairman. With all due respect to my colleagues on Constitution and Governance and Councillor Pollard, this particular paragraph, I would not have written it in the way in which it's written. I'll suggest something which might help the meeting, I'm not sure. What we're dealing with here is the neutrality of the monitoring officer and the politics of members, and we need clear blue water between them. I think that's what people are struggling to achieve. But at the end of the day, the decision on whether the meeting goes ahead or not solely rests with the monitoring officer. Now, members may not like that, but I think it's absolutely right. So, bearing that in mind, I would have rewritten this particular paragraph as such. I would carry, during the pre-election period for the national general election as appropriate and Cornwall's local elections, the monitoring officer, and then I would then go on, shall determine whether meetings should be convened taking account of the recommended, etc. Going down to involved, full stop, and then say the monitoring officer may consult chairman and vice chairman as they may require. Now that for me gives the distinction between the neutrality of the officer and the politics of the members. And I think that's what we're struggling to achieve. So yeah. I'd be interested to hear what Councillor Pollard has to say to that.
Yeah, no, good points, Councillor Biggs. Councillor Pollard, could I bring you in, please?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I'm struggling a bit which paragraph you're referring to. Is this 2.8?
Councillor Biggs?
Yes, sorry, thank you, Chairman. This is on page 89. These are the recommendations to council.
Oh, so the recommendations. Okay, yes. Sorry.
We've
had a lot of paragraphs. That's all.
Yeah, my apologies, John. But that's again, it written as one sentence. It doesn't provide that clear blue water between members and officer, and I think we need to establish that.
I take the point. But I would prefer we had some wording which said that the monitoring officer will consult with the chairman, not may.
Chairman, if I may, I would disagree with that, because it is the absolute right of the monitoring officer to determine it without reference at all to members if she or he so chooses. And this is not about our current monitoring officer or the current chairman's, or this is about a constitution which will stand in 1,000 years' time. So it has to be right.
Well, I doubt it will stand in 1,000 years' time, Dave, but it's a nice thought.
Now try and be ambitious, John.
Sure. I take your point entirely about the division of duties and the separation of duties. I think that's absolutely right. But I do think within our constitution we need to state that this consultation with the chairman will take place. They may not disagree, they may not agree. In the end, the monitoring officer has the trump card, but without that in there, I think we're not fulfilling part of the background to this, which was to make sure that there is a discussion about what's going to happen. This is only about those non-quasi-judicial meetings which are happening within the PERDA period.
Councillors, I do see councillors Kirkham, Kenny and Taylor indicating to speak, and I'm presuming they probably want to speak to this particular point. I think Councillor Brown suggested taking this back to the C&G committee. Councillor Pollard, how would you?
I'm very happy to take Councillor Mould's suggestion back to the committee if we can pass the rest. I don't want to have to, come through all this again. We've done a lot of work on it. We were in agreement. That doesn't mean that the comments of members should not tweak it in certain ways, if appropriate, as with the first recommendation we had. But I don't want to get bedded down here in a full council meeting in legal disputes or discussions. So I will take Councillor Mould's amendment back if that's.
I think also
I'm not minded to take this back. I think we're almost there, and I think with that we can tweak it within the meeting.
Okay, thank you, John. That's helpful. Melanie, could I bring you in, please, the monitoring officer?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, members, and thank you for letting me come in again, Chairman. I just wanted to add. I was hoping to say clarity, members, but I'm not sure it is clarity. So we talked, didn't we, at the beginning around the pre-election period, and I've confirmed that the pre-election period is 6 weeks. The Code of Recommended Practice on Local Publicity, which you'll see their members, came in place in 2011, and the specific reference in paragraph 8 to the local authorities' conduct of referendum in regulations 2007. I've just done a quick review of those regulations, and those regulations has been revoked. So that's why there might be that confusion around the 28 days and the 6 weeks, because the statutory guidance just hasn't caught up with the legislative provisions. So I hope that provides some clarity on paragraph 8, but acknowledge that that means that the Code of Practice isn't reflective of the legislative provisions. But I think that's why we've got the confusion between the 6 weeks and the 28 days. I hope that assists.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Pollard. I'm just trying to think, shall we bring in Councillors Kirkham, Kenny and Taylor? Are you wishing to speak around this point? Councillor Kirkham first.
Yes, I was. The short campaign, like in a snap general election, can sometimes be 5 weeks. So as it was last time in 2017, time before last. So I'm a bit confused about the 28 days and the 6 weeks. I just want to say a little bit about recommendation 2, because we have already settled that there's a presumption we're allowed to discharge normal business, and I would assume that that includes things like health and wellbeing board audit and scrutiny. But then number 2 says other meetings shall only take place in accordance with a decision by the monitoring officer, which seems to imply the opposite, which seems to imply that those meetings won't take place unless there's a decision to make them take place, which seems to be the opposite of the presumption that normal business will carry on.
Councillor Kenny?
Yeah, I just don't think, I agree with Councillor Brown, I don't think we can make any changes now on the fly. People are putting full stops in and taking them out. I think we should accept what is written now and refer it back to Constitution and Governance. The committee can hear what the concerns of the local members are. I would suggest that we don't try and change any wording at this point. We don't have the information to support it. So I would say go with what we've got. I won't support any amendments, and I would look to the Constitution and Governance Committee to have another look at it.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Kenny. Councillor Taylor, please.
Thank you, Chair. But Councillor Kirkham's raised the point I was going to raise about the presumption. So thank you.
Okay. I'm conscious also that Councillor Barnes and Councillor Jenkins wished to raise some points. I'm just going to go back to Councillor Barnes first, please. Councillor Barnes.
Yes, thank you, Madam. My point isn't on the rest of this debate, which seems a good cure for insomnia. I think what concerns me is issues that affected my area during PERDA last time, and that was although it's to do with highways and putting in speed humps, because some officers said, oh, in PERDA, councillors don't count for anything. And I think members need to be able to have people they can go to get issues resolved when such complex things come up. So I think the council should also be more transparent with decisions that they're taking and are going to implement in certain areas, so that they can contact town councils more than that they would do, so things that are likely to come up are more publicly well known, and so that then you don't get problems where you get speed humps put in where you can't get them out again.
Chairman, I think you're on mute.
You're right, I am. Councillor Jenkin. Thank you, Councillor Barnes. Councillor Jenkin, could I go to you, please?
Thank you. It's just a small point. It doesn't really change the recommendations, but I just wanted to raise on page 96 that doesn't seem to be any distinction between the essentially not quite quasi-judicial but statutory function meetings like the Standards Committee, and which is essentially non-political, and something where you might be making a political decision. And I wonder whether the Constitution and Governance could actually, or the monitoring officer could actually clarify the different status, because nothing that is decided in a Standards Committee is a political decision as such.
Thank you. So before I go back to Councillor Pollard to respond to those points, I'm just going to go back to Councillor Mould first to seek clarity on whether she wishes to keep her amendment in or not. If I could bring you in, please, Carol.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. I've listened to Mel, and I didn't actually realise that one item has been revoked, so it does appear that 6 weeks is now set in stone. So I'm happy to revoke my amendment and recommend as set out.
Lovely. Thank you, Councillor Mould. That's really helpful. And Councillor Pollard, please, to respond to the most recent points.
Thank you very much to everybody for those comments. So I'm scribbling too much on too small a piece of paper, so I do apologise. I think we should just remember what we're trying to do here. We are trying to make it clear and workable. And the issue about meeting in Purda has two backgrounds. The first is that in terms of discussion and debate and decision making, in some cases, political influence could be used. And people could make a political statement or something in line with the election, which we need to avoid. And secondly, of course, that in the last few weeks before the election, our experience is that very few members turn up to these meetings because they're out on the hoof. So the clarity is trying to establish that. I do not understand really the point about the principle and the practice. The principle is that meetings should take place. But in practice, if there is a meeting that is scheduled for the Purda period, then a discussion will take place between the monitoring officer and the chairman as to whether that's appropriate, whether enough members will turn up, or whether it can be managed in a way which doesn't give a political advantage to any particular individual or party. And I think that's workable and practical and sensible. And if you take the point of looking at our calendar, officers have avoided putting meetings in Purda. Things have been shifted forward so that scrutiny, for instance, will work around the March cabinet and will be done and dusted before then. So for me, in my simple mind, is very clear. Okay, the quasi-judicial meetings that have to make decisions on licensing or whatever will meet. The others, if they're scheduled during Purda, because you never know when an election is going to be called, will be reviewed as to whether it's appropriate or not. And those are the recommendations in front of you. And I still, now that Councillor Mould's withdrawn her point, I still propose them. As long as my vice chair is in some kind of agreement. I'm now particularly worried.
Councillor Eddy, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Pollard. I've listened to this debate. We've now had it clarified around the pre-election period of being 6 weeks. So I'm glad of that clarity. We had a good discussion around this in committee. We were unanimous in our decision that this would be our recommendation, and I stand by that. We've set out a perfectly good mechanism here that distinguishes between the quasi-judicial committees, and we've got a mechanism there which involves both the monitoring officer with the chairman and vice chairman of the other committees. So I'm happy to recommend the recommendations as they stand. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. In which case we are going to go to the vote. I'm going to invite Mel to come in here, please, Mel.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Before you do go into this, just thank you to councillors for being so active in this debate. It's been really, really informative. So Mel, please, with the vote.
Thank you. So members were voting on item 12.4, and this is set out at page 89 of your papers. So as before, if you can vote for or against or abstentions, and let's see if we can get a full vote in house on this one. I'll start with Alvey.
For.
Atherfold.
For.
Barnes. Councillor Barnes, are you able to cast your vote? I can see you.
Abstain.
Bastin.
For.
Batters. Councillor Batters, are you able to confirm your vote?
Yes, I will abstain because, as I informed you, I was absent for about 30 minutes of that discussion. So I will abstain. Thank you.
Thank you for the confirmation. Biggs.
For.
Bisco.
For.
Jeff Brown.
For.
Malcolm Brown.
For.
Bull.
For.
Burden.
For.
Buscombe. Councillor Buscombe's had a few technical issues, so we'll see if we can get him on the line later. Chopak.
For.
Cole.
For.
Collins.
For.
Craigo.
For.
Breaker.
For.
Davis.
For.
Councillor Dorr, we don't believe is on the line, but we haven't been notified. Desmond. Councillor Desmond, are you able to confirm your vote? No, not back on the line. Dolphin.
For.
Dolphin.
Councillor, monitoring officer Councillor Duffin has left the meeting.
Thank you. Dwelly.
For.
Dyer.
For.
Ethorn Gibbons.
For.
Eddie.
For.
Edgerton.
For.
Ecclesmith.
For.
Ellenbrook.
For.
Evans.
For. For.
Barrington.
For.
Fitter.
For.
Funk. Councillor Funk, are you able to confirm your vote for me? I believe Councillor Funk was leaving the meeting producer. He gave us prior notice. Can you just check that and I'll come to it at the end? Foot.
For.
Producer.
For.
Frank.
For.
Trench.
For.
Frost.
For.
Councillor Frost, there's a bit of background noise. Can you just reconfirm your vote for me, please?
Yeah. For.
Thank you. Gammon.
For.
German.
For.
Giles. For. Greenslade.
For.
Hannaford.
For.
Harding.
For.
Harris.
For.
Harvey.
For.
Hawkin.
For.
Hawkins.
For.
Hendry.
For.
Hurd.
For.
Hayward. I think Councillor Oh, thank you, Councillor Hayward. I was worried you disappeared on me. Holly.
For.
Jenkin.
For.
Jewel. Councillor Jewel. Oh, thank you, Councillor Jewel. Jordan.
For.
Kazmarek.
For.
Thank you. Keelan.
For.
Kenny.
For.
Kirk.
For.
Kirkham.
Abstain.
Knightley. Councillor Knightley.
Monitoring officer Councillor Knightley has left the meeting.
Thank you for the confirmation. LeBroy.
4.
Lennox Boyd.
4.
Long.
4.
Luke.
4.
Colin Martin.
4.
John Martin.
4.
Massey.
4.
May.
4.
McCarthy.
4.
McKenna.
4.
McLenning.
4.
Andrew Mitchell.
4.
Pete Mitchell.
4.
Councillor Monk.
4.
Moorcraft.
4.
Maud.
Thank you, Mel. 4.
Musto.
4.
Nolan.
4.
Adrian Parsons.
4.
David Parsons.
4.
Jane Pascoe. 4. Lionel Pascoe.
4.
Painter.
4.
Pears. Councillor Pears, are you still on the call?
Yes, I am. Again, a sticky mute button. Sorry about that. 4.
No problem. Was that? Can you just reconfirm that vote, please?
4.
Thank you. Pollard.
4.
You.
4.
Brand.
4.
Rich.
4.
Robinson.
4.
Rogerson.
4.
Botchell.
4.
You can remember
Members, somebody's got their mic unmuted and you're talking. Please can you mute your mic? Thank you. So it's just on Rouse.
4.
Rule.
4.
Rushworth. Councillor Rushworth, are you able to confirm your vote for me, please? Oh, apologies, I didn't quite capture that.
4.
Thank you. Sornby.
4.
Saunders.
4.
Seaver.
4.
Simmons.
4.
Hamlin.
4.
Taylor.
4.
Ian Thomas.
4.
Mike Thomas.
4.
Toms.
4.
Powell.
4.
Judah.
4.
4.
Hollis.
4.
White.
4.
And Peter Williams.
4.
Thank you, members. I'm just going to check some names, some of which I do believe are absent, but we haven't had formal confirmation. So, Councillor Buscombe, are you back on the line at all?
I'm back on the line, but I'd like to abstain because I haven't heard the debate for the last 10 minutes.
Thank you for that confirmation, appreciated. Councillor Dorr, I don't believe is on the line, meeting producer. Is that still the case?
That's correct.
Thank you. And Councillor Desmond, I don't believe is on the line, but just want to check that's still the case.
That's correct as well.
And then Councillor Funk, I believe, notified us as leaving, but I just wanted to check.
That's correct.
Thank you, Chairman and members. That concludes the vote on that item. We'll be confirming the outcome in a second.
Chairman, I can confirm that that vote was carried. 103 votes for and 4 abstentions. Thank you.
Thank you, officers. Thank you, councillors. So we are now going to move into a 30-minute lunch break starting at 1 p.m. So we will reconvene. Oh, Councillor Barnes, was that?
Yes. I did ask a question about what are members supposed to do if they have a dispute in PERDA. Perhaps someone could have replied to that.
Councillor Pollard, could I invite you to, or is it Councillor Pollard? Who could, perhaps a written response would be the best way forward. Councillor Barnes.
I beg your pardon?
Perhaps if you could email the monitoring officer and she will give you a written response on that.
Okay.
Yep, lovely, thank you. So we have voted on that and we're now going to go into a lunch break starting at 1 p.m, finishing at 1:30 p.m. It'll give us a chance to catch up with the Prime Minister's announcements over lunch. Members of the public watching the live stream this afternoon, if you're still with us, you will need to log into a different link. That's the afternoon session link. Councillors, you can stay on this link. You don't need to do anything, but please do make sure that your microphone is turned off and your camera is also turned off over the lunch break. So thank you, councillors, and I'll see you again at 1:30. That's 1:30. Thank you.